In the dead of night, moonlight filters through the dense, dark trees of a silent forest. An armored man with blonde hair collapses in panic, crying out that he can't feel his leg. He watches as a comrade flees into the woods, letting out a terrified scream. Huffing, a blood-splattered soldier with short, reddish-brown hair runs for their life in terror. The reddish-haired soldier reaches their fallen comrade, who asks where the others are. They cry back that everyone is dead. They reveal that a single, terrifying monster, a muscular warrior wearing an animal skull, killed them all. The blonde man refuses to believe they lost one person, but his comrade's terrified face shows the grim truth. Hic. A sudden piercing scream echoes as a violent attack lands just off panel. The blonde man is thrown back, letting out a horrified gasp as his comrade is apparently struck down. With eyes glowing blue in fury and shock, the blonde man glares at the unseen attacker. He brandishes his sword at the skull-masked warrior, demanding to know what kind of monster he is. With glowing eyes, the skull-masked warrior menacingly asks, "Who am I?" The scene shifts to a grand, ominous castle silhouetted against a blood-red sky. Inside, a massive horned demon slaughters warriors in a throne room littered with the fallen. A warrior in ornate black and gold armor, identified as battle god Damien, laments taking too much damage. Damien curses as system notifications reveal he's been sealed and petrified, wondering about the multiple status effects. Sigh, Damien resigns himself to his fate, believing not even the greatest healer could save him now. A man with long blonde hair and red and gold armor smugly remarks on Damien's resilience. Identified as King Arthur, the Demon King expedition leader, he condescendingly applauds Damien's tenacity, calling him a cockroach. Enraged, Damien lunges forward, screaming the name Jiang. A terrifying horned demon with a single glowing eye radiates immense power. Vague red lightning envelops Damien, who cries out in agony while King Arthur watches in surprise. A system warning flashes, announcing that Damien's stamina is critically low and he may be logged out. Gasping for breath, Damien looks at his foe and weakly asks, "Why?" King Arthur smirks, mockingly repeating Damien's question back to him. The horned demon, Lord of Abyss Abraxas, gathers a sinister purple energy in its claws. As system notifications detail Abraxas powering up for a major attack, King Arthur clicks his tongue in annoyance, lamenting that the fun is over. "How dare you," he shouts, activating his own ultimate skill, a multi-leveled weather reversal and realm destruction. King Arthur unleashes a blinding, explosive torrent of fiery energy and magic circles. Damien watches the impressive ultimate as King Arthur scoffs at him, muttering, "Humans." With a brutal thud, King Arthur drives his fist deep into Damien's stomach. Damien collapses to his knees, reeling from the devastating blow. As he continues his assault, King Arthur lectures that losers, garbage, and the lower class should know their place. Damien spits back that a loser bastard like him still became a hero. King Arthur smirks, agreeing before calling Damien's heroism a, quote, serious error. Despite the pain, a defiant, knowing grin spreads across Damien's face. King Arthur looks back, pondering where things could have possibly gone wrong. The story flashes back 10 years to the release of the first ever virtual reality game, Arsha Chronicle. The game captivated people with its lifelike graphics and NPCs, showing crowds of players in a vast fantasy world. The main event, a Demon King raid, promised the ultimate prize, the power to establish a kingdom and become a hero. Countless users, including a younger Damien, dedicated themselves to the game, fighting hordes of powerful monsters. He recalls his past, where his family begged him to quit, with his brother calling him a game addict and his mother pleading for him to live a real life. He poured his entire life into the game for a decade, ignoring them all to chase the reward he needed to fix his ruined life. Returning to the past raid, King Arthur extends a welcoming hand with a gentle smile. His real name is Jiang, a servant of the goddess Arya, with a skill granting him infinite mana. The narration explains that it was thanks to Jiang's power that the expedition reached the Demon King's castle. Back on the throne room floor, a wounded Damien thinks to himself that he is so close to his goal. Jiang condescendingly states the world needs people like Damien before thanking him for helping them defeat the Demon King. Damien stares in disbelief, asking if he was being used from the very beginning. With a chilling smile, Jiang confirms his betrayal. Of course, thud thud, King Arthur relentlessly pummels Damien, who can only grunt in agony under the furious assault. With eyes glowing, King Arthur screams that he always hated the useless parasite and furiously wishes for his death. Lying defeated on the icy floor, Damien wonders if this is truly his end, dying by a traitor's hand without achieving anything. As Damien struggles, a dark, disembodied voice tells him that it understands how he feels. A gauntleted hand crackling with red energy appears as the voice introduces itself as the old evil, Abraxas, Lord of Abyss, shocking King Arthur. The voice of Abraxas declares it will continue the old evil's progress, as King Arthur grimly notes his foe's unnerving persistence. Abraxas appoints Avenger Damien to kill the goddess Arya, prompting King Arthur to roar that he will crush his skull. A monstrous red form looms over Damien, roaring, "Die, you bastard," as it crushes him with immense pressure. As their powers collide, Abraxas' voice proclaims that he is the one who will bring about the second coming of chaos. The scene abruptly shifts to a peaceful, sunny day in a modern residential neighborhood. Uwag! Damien, now a young man with short black hair, jolts awake in bed with a terrified scream. He looks around his familiar room in a daze, wondering what just happened. A younger man with brown hair peeks in, calling for his hyung to come and eat. Damien stares in shock, wondering why his brother is in a school uniform instead of the military, but his brother just says he woke him as requested. His brother shuts the door, leaving a stunned and speechless Damien to stare at the empty doorway. Clutching his head as his eyes glow yellow, Damien frantically asks himself if he has finally gone insane. The scene flashes back to the world of Arsha Chronicle, noting this was the time of the game's beta release. Sitting on the edge of his bed, a stunning realization dawns on Damien. Am I perhaps back in the past? At a dinner table, Damien shovels rice into his mouth with desperate hunger. His mother and brother Jinhoon watch with concern. She asks why he's acting so strangely, but Jinhoon has no idea. Tears of joy stream down Damien's face as he cherishes the home-cooked meal, thinking it feels like being a child again. He remembers a time when his mother was healthy, then snaps back to the present, realizing he's been lost in the moment. His brother shows him a phone screen, asking him an intriguing question. What makes your blood boil? An epic advertisement plays for Arsha Chronicle, a world of swords, magic, and endless adventure in the first ever virtual reality game. Pausing mid-bite, Damien blankly asks what he's watching, making his brother sweat. As his brother nervously names the game AC Arsha Chronicle, Damien's expression becomes dark and intense. A hilarious misunderstanding erupts as his brother thinks AC is a curse word, calling Damien crazy when he insists it's the game's name. His brother pinches his cheek, calling him dirty before excitedly announcing that today is the open beta's launch day. Standing outside with his mother, Damien confirms he's ready to go, as a taxi waits for him. Waving goodbye from the taxi, he tells his mom to stay healthy, and urges the driver to hurry to Jomjong Station. He looks at his phone, fondly remembering a time when the Galaxy M24 app was the ultimate VR capsule, not an obsolete brick. He recalls working tirelessly for his bedridden father before escaping the burden, by diving into the game and cutting ties with his family. Lost in thought, he sits in the taxi with grim determination, thinking, how can I forget this time? His eyes suddenly glow yellow as he notices something strange, asking, WH, what's this? Puzzled, he sits up and wonders what's happening, since he hasn't even logged into the game yet. ACKK. He clutches his head in agony as mysterious, glowing runes fill his vision, causing him to scream. Ugh. He lurches forward in pain, grabbing the startled taxi driver while thinking he's heard the voice in his head before. The taxi arrives at the Evertail virtual reality store in Sensadong Gorosu-gil, his destination in sight. Standing with grim resolve, Damien clenches his fist and confirms his purpose with a single word. Yes. Inside the store, a female employee regretfully informs him that all the VR capsules are already sold out through reservations. The employee flinches back, intimidated by his intense, silent stare, and stammers, Pardon? Suddenly changing her tune, the employee smiles and invites him to follow her. Damien follows the woman through the store, heading toward a private area. She presents a pristine VR capsule, explaining it's a refurbished model from a canceled order. After she mentions it was a demo product, he immediately offers his card and says, I'll take it. The employee is stunned by the instant purchase, wondering if he's the son of a rich family. Confirming the purchase is fine, Damien turns and walks out of the store, his mission accomplished. Settling into the VR capsule, he reflects that he used most of his savings, but accepts it as a necessary cost. He closes his eyes, certain now that his return to the past, the system windows, and the mysterious voice are all connected. The final piece clicks into place as he identifies the voice as that of the fearsome Demon King Abraxas. With glowing yellow eyes, Damien's face hardens with intense focus and determination. The scene shifts to the Evertail building in San Francisco, California at night. Inside the top-secret Oracle department at Evertail headquarters, a blonde woman faces a wall of red warning alerts. The woman, identified as Operator Chloe, asks in shock, "What's going on?" A system-wide message declares a code black emergency throughout the Oracle department's control room. A panicked employee in glasses shouts at his colleagues to take action amidst the chaos. Startled, Chloe urgently calls for the team leader to come immediately. The head of Oracle, Kim Hyakshin, rushes in, asking what's wrong. Hyakshin and Chloe stare in grim silence at the massive, flashing warning signs on the main screen. Hyakshin sternly asks when the alert started, but a panicked Chloe admits it just began and they don't know the cause. Chloe reports that the Akashic Records blocking protocol is accelerating, warning they might lose all control. A diagram explains the mainstream is controlled by the Akashic Record, the hyper-AI that created Arsa Chronicle, an unknown territory they monitor. The narration warns that this anomaly is something that could erase the entire game system. A system warning announces control has dropped below 25% as the Akashic Record consumes the server, causing Hyakshin to curse. Chloe desperately pleads with Hyakshin to give up control over the mainstream. Hyakshin fiercely refuses, yelling that he can't allow them to lose all of Arsa Chronicle. Cursing his luck, he decisively slams his fist down on a large red button. Notifications announce the Akashic Record has removed its own control and paused the blocking protocol. As the mainstream activates, Hyakshin stands before the console and grimly states, "It's starting now." Damien is suddenly transported to the Whispering Island, looking bewildered as a notification welcomes him to Arsa. A wave of relief washes over Damien as he realizes he truly has returned. He recalls his 10 years of gameplay and his past, preparing himself for what's to come. He remembers King Arthur's condescending words about how every human has their proper place. The memory of his foe calling heroes who were failures in life a bad error fuels his anger. Wreathed in a fiery aura, Damien vows that King Arthur will forever regret ever playing this game. He looks around the unfamiliar field, confused as to why he isn't in the beginner's village. A system window confirms Damien's connection log has been registered, leaving him puzzled. He stares in horror at two new conditions. If his character dies, he dies, and if he fails a goal, he dies. ACCKK. He screams, clutching his head in agony as the system announces his sense limit has been removed. Lying on the ground in pain, a notification confirms the removal of the sense limit is complete. He furiously curses the game, demanding to know what it's done to his body. The narrative introduces a mysterious class of beings who use primitive sorcery and curses, seeing death as salvation. Damien, now a level 1 witch doctor with tribal tattoos, grimaces at his abysmal stats. He reads the details of his hidden class, noting its focus on damage over time, skills like poison, and curses. He scowls, disappointed that this hidden class doesn't suit his preferred playstyle at all. Suddenly engulfed in a red flash, he wonders what's happening to him now. Shocked by an alignment penalty, he screams in disbelief at the impossible number of 9,999,999,999. He panics, realizing such a high number implies he's killed over 1 billion people. He clutches his head, overwhelmed by this sudden, overwhelming penalty. Crying in despair, he mutters that the game has to be kidding him. He realizes that a penalty this severe basically brands him as the Demon King. He contemplates his situation, realizing that, despite his second chance, his life is already on the line. Panicked and sweating, he frantically considers covering his face to hide his identity. The scene calmly pans over the peaceful, rustic Dunvatten village. The village head, Elmore, turns from his desk as a figure appears in his doorway. Elmore begins to offer a warm welcome to the newly arrived adventurer. The adventurer is revealed to be Damien, awkwardly standing in the doorway with a paper bag over his head. A baffled Elmore asks why he's wearing a paper bag, to which Damien begins to explain. Peeking through the eye holes, Damien confidently declares, "It's cool." Blushing with shame, Damien mentally complains that he's only wearing the stupid bag because of a compulsory quest. Elmore awkwardly clears his throat and says he respects Damien's taste, to which Damien simply replies, yes. Flustered, Elmore apologizes for getting sidetracked as Damien impatiently asks to get a quest. Elmore's expression turns serious as he points a finger, telling Damien to listen carefully. A group of small, fluffy chicks are shown, having eaten all the feed from the storerooms. He's handed a quest paper with a drawing of a chick, assigning him the task of catching 10 of them. The scene shifts to the mountains behind Undisputed Village, the location for his new quest. A lone, innocent-looking chick chirps sweetly in the quiet woods. Damien, a menacing shadow with glowing yellow eyes, stalks the small chick from the cover of the bushes. A needle flies through the air, striking the chick in its rear with a startled cheep. Damien watches as the small chick falls limply to the ground. Huff huff. Damien pants heavily, holding his staff and looking utterly exhausted from the effort. He collapses to the ground, cursing himself for forgetting he only has 1 hit point. Sighing in frustration, he laments that he's only managed to catch 1 so far. He summons a glowing blue system window to check his skills. The skill list shows that only shooting of poisonous needles is unlocked, with powerful skills like voodoo doll and zombification still locked. Pondering his limited options, Damien realizes he can only use 1 skill until he reaches level 10. He picks himself up, ready to continue his tedious hunt. A sinister grin spreads across his face as he prepares for his next attack. Another unsuspecting chick is struck by a swift purple glowing needle. In a quick montage, several more chicks are hit by needles and fall to the ground. The scene transitions to the sleek, modern Yushin Group's building in the city. A blonde man relaxes comfortably in a high-tech massage chair. He speaks to a man in a suit, commenting that the situation isn't as bad as he initially thought. The blonde man predicts that the entire landscape of VR gaming will change within a week. His phone, resting on the desk, suddenly begins to ring. Answering the call, the blonde man is informed that his ideal class, leveling path, and all necessary equipment have been prepared. Thanking the director, the man smirks, declaring it's time for him to turn the game around. He stares at his reflection in the window, musing on the game AC as doves fly past. He is introduced as Jong Yuman, pro gamer and grandson of the Yushin Group's president, whose in-game name is King Arthur. A feather floats down as a voice says, "I'm looking forward to it." Back in the forest, Damien kneels exhausted beside a pile of captured chicks, finally having caught them all. A notification announces he's reached level 2, and he cries with overwhelming joy and relief. His celebration is cut short by a sudden, confused, "Huh." He stares in wide-eyed shock at a system window, announcing he has 2 remaining stat points. He realizes that gaining 3 points per level means he either has an overpowered class or an amazing character. A sly grin forms as he reconsiders his situation, thinking this might not be so bad after all. His eyes glow menacingly as he clenches his fist, vowing to make Jiang Yumin wait for him. He sprints back toward Undisputed Village, carrying a bundle of captured chicks. Still wearing his paper bag disguise, he dashes past a startled villager. The bewildered villager watches him run off, wondering what on earth he just saw. Damien flees in panic, now pursued by a mob of furious, glowing-eyed roosters as a villager screams. A group of players observes the chaos, questioning the paper bag and speculating if he's a tamer, which a woman dismisses. One player coldly remarks that at this rate, the man in the paper bag is going to die soon. Damien looks back in terror, his eyes wide with fear inside the paper bag. He desperately throws one of the captured chicks at the chasing rooster mob to distract them. Cornered against a tree, Damien is completely surrounded by the menacing flock of angry roosters. Sweating under his paper bag, he wonders if he might have overdone it. He reaffirms his strategy, deciding that gathering a mob is the fastest way to complete Elmore's quest. He stands in a clearing, scanning the area as if looking for a specific spot. Ack! The mob of furious, red-eyed roosters charges at him with terrifying speed. The entire mob of roosters lies defeated and twitching on the ground, his plan a chaotic success. Damien stands triumphantly above the fallen flock, declaring that they've all been caught. A menacing grin appears on his paper bag as he tells the helpless birds to prepare to become his express. System notifications flood the screen, announcing the defeat of hens and roosters as express is gained. Bathed in a brilliant blue aura, a notification announces Damien has reached level 9. He clenches his fists in exhilaration, exclaiming, "This is it." He muses that he can reach level 10 and get a new skill, just as a system window chimes. His excitement instantly turns to confusion as he stares at the screen. The scene shifts to a peaceful, nearby forest. A player easily slays a hen, receiving a notification for its defeat. The player, identified as user Cheolminjang, grins maniacally, remarking how amazing and easy this is. His companions, Minyong and Dongchul, laughingly agree that it's fucking sweet and almost too easy to be real. Two more players, Namsu and Jinsong, join in, smugly stating that the game has nothing on them. The group stumbles upon Damien's pile of defeated chicks, deciding to feast on someone else's hard work. Cheolminjang levels up to 7 amidst a flash of blue light as his friends cheer him on. Smirking, Cheolminjang boasts they might become rankers, but a voice from behind asks if they're enjoying themselves. Damien suddenly appears, landing a brutal punch directly on Cheolminjang's face. Cheolminjang is knocked out cold, and a system notification confirms he has fainted as Damien stands over him. His friends, the man with the eye patch and the brown-hooded man, cry out Cheolmin's name in shock. They rush to their fallen comrade's side, trying desperately to wake him up. The eye patch-wearing man looks up in alarm as Damien's sandaled feet step into view. With a menacing aura, Damien coldly asks the group, "You ate my stuff, right?" He quietly threatens them to spit it back out, while he's asking nicely, terrifying the players. Two of the players angrily deny it, demanding proof that they ate his things. Damien silently glances over his shoulder at the pile of his slaughtered chicks. Enveloped in a fiery red aura, he furiously asks if they really want to die for lying. He offers them one last chance. Spit out what they ate and get lost. Lying on the ground, Cheolmin weakly clenches his fist and defiantly mutters, "Fuck off." Roaring with anger, Cheolmin lunges forward to stab Damien, screaming, "You son of a bitch." Damien stands his ground, calmly stating, "I warned you." "Yeah." He effortlessly blocks the attack with his staff, sending Cheolmin reeling in pain. The eye patch-wearing player points in horror, shouting Cheolmin's name as his friend is overpowered. The entire group charges at Damien, who glows with a menacing red aura as he prepares to counter their assault. Damien unleashes a swift, brutal barrage of attacks, striking every one of his assailants. Q! The eye patch-wearing player is sent flying backward from the force of the blow. Damien takes aim with his blowpipe at the last standing player. He forcefully shouts at the player to spit it out, preparing to fire. The terrified players realize they've messed with the wrong person, wondering if he's some kind of monster. Damien stands silently, a leaf falling past his glowing, intimidating figure. His horned shadow looms over the terrified players, who realize they need to run for their lives. Two of the players scramble to their feet and flee in a desperate panic. Damien raises his blowpipe, his glowing eyes fixed on his fleeing targets. He fires 2 poison needles, which fly through the air and strike both runners in the head. A notification confirms a status effect. Their characters have been poisoned, and they collapse, trembling. Damien looks down at his handiwork, his shadowed eyes contemplating his next move. He looks around, suddenly confused, as if he's lost count. He wonders where one of them went, while Cheolmin hides in the tall grass, cursing his luck. Cheolmin frantically tries to log out, but a notification denies his request, stating he's in an active battle. A new notification appears. 300 seconds left until logout, leaving him trapped and panicked. He grits his teeth in terror, cursing that they had to run into a chaotic player. Cheolmin, the defeated player, looks up from the ground to see the legs of his assailant standing over him. His face contorts in absolute terror as he stares up at the mysterious player. Damien, in his paper bag mask and tribal gear, towers over the player and offers a simple, menacing, "Hello, HIIIC." The terrified player, Cheolmin, lets out a shrill scream, trembling in fear. Damien coolly raises his blowpipe, his glowing yellow eyes locking onto his petrified victim. YAAAAGHA. Desperate scream echoes through the sunlit forest. Humming a cheerful tune, Damien reviews several glowing blue system windows that have appeared before him. With his foot planted firmly on the unconscious Cheolmin's head, Damien muses that this yielded better results than he'd imagined. Bathed in a vibrant purple aura, Damien clenches his fist, feeling a surge of new power. Yes, he celebrates, exclaiming that he can finally use the level 10 skills that were previously locked. He brings up his skill tree where shooting of poison darts is now unlocked, while powerful skills remain sealed. His celebration is interrupted by a stark red notification. He has committed PK, and he stares at it in confusion. Looking at the red window with a sweaty paper bag, he figures he's already hit rock bottom, wryly noting that even bad things can be useful. A system window reveals the effects: massive boosts to item and gold drops from PK victims, plus automatic acquisition of their assets and experience. Dismissing the notification, Damien decides it's a good outcome either way. With his victim still unconscious in the background, Damien chuckles sinisterly, looking forward to his new method of leveling up. The scene shifts to reality, where Damien, in a white hoodie, enters a convenience store and greets the clerk, Cheolmin's real-life self, as Hyung. His friend, the clerk, nags him about buying so much convenience food, warning him that he's going to get sick. Damien smiles it off, saying he's busy. As the clerk sighs in resignation, he presents his full basket of processed foods, telling his friend to stop nagging and just ring him up. The clerk tries to pay for the groceries, but Damien refuses, confused when the clerk points out the high cost. Insisting on paying, the clerk tells Damien to just buy him a drink next time, leaving Damien momentarily flustered. A news report on a nearby tablet announces that pro gamer Jang Yumin of the Tempest of Time and Space is retiring. Damien is startled by the news, which explains Yumin is no longer interested in traditional keyboard and mouse games. The clerk points at the tablet as the news reveals Jiang Yumin's next game is AC, asking Damien if he knows the famous player. Damien laughs it off, listing all of Jiang Yumin's well-known, enviable traits: rich, handsome, and an incredible gamer. His expression darkens as he states you'd have to be a spy not to know him, thinking silently. The scene transitions back to the game, focusing on the forest near Dunvatten village. In-game, Damien furiously bashes roosters while thinking that the bastard Jang Yumin is coming to this game. Ding! A level up notification announces he has reached level 15, and he resolves not to slack off. Clenching his fist with determination, he vows to become much stronger and searches for his next objective. He pulls up a glowing blue quest window to check his progress. He reviews the last quest on the island, hunting a wild boar, which will earn him a recommendation to leave. He considers the difficulty of the quest, noting that the frequently migrating wild boars are hard to locate. He suddenly stops, his attention caught by something in the distance. He's found his target, a level 30 elite wild boar drinking from a stream by a waterfall. The massive boar forages for food, casually gobbling up worms from the forest floor. Hiding in the brush, Damien realizes the danger of a level 30 elite and knows he can't let his guard down. An infographic details the game's monster categories, ranking them from normal to the fearsome champion type. A second infographic explains monster variations, as Damien decides to use his corruption elixir skill to probe the boar's characteristics. Crack! He hits the boar with a projectile, causing it to squeal in startled surprise. Perched casually on a tree branch, Damien greets the beast with a simple hi. The wild boar snorts, its eyes glowing red with rage as it glares up at him. Squeal. The enraged boar furiously charges at the tree where Damien is sitting. Leaping down to meet the charge, Damien prepares a glowing attack, inviting the boar to come to me. He hurls a bubbling yellow concoction at the boar, calling it a housewarming present. The elixir explodes on the boar's face, causing it to squeal in agony. Watching the beast, Damien observes that the elixir's effect means the boar doesn't have physical immunity. The boar's attempts to summon monsters, cast magic, and raise a barrier all fail, as a notification confirms its defenses have been corroded. With a new notification confirming the boar's defense has decreased, Damien smirks, confident that his corruption elixir is working well. Ack! The wild boar brutally headbutts Damien, sending him flying. Barely dodging the speeding beast, Damien realizes that was a close call. Squeal! The enraged boar, its eyes glowing red, lets out a furious cry. With a powerful leap, the enraged boar charges forward again. Damien scoffs at the boar's simple-minded charge, calling it a typical dumb beast. He stops short in utter confusion as a massive, glowing blue wall suddenly materializes before him. Touching the strange barrier, Damien wonders if this is the boar's special characteristic. The charging boar, a red gem now glowing on its forehead, reveals its wall formation ability. Trapped against the wall, Damien realizes with horror that he can't dodge the incoming attack. Boom! The impact creates a massive, blinding explosion. Damien's tattered paper bag mask floats away in the aftermath of the blast. His mask gone, Damien is revealed with glowing red eyes and a dark aura as a notification announces his zombification. A system window explains his new passive skill. Upon reaching 0 HP, he becomes an undead for 600 seconds, emitting a poison and bleed aura. Gritting his teeth amidst the swirling red energy, Damien mutters that the last attack really hurt. The wild boar stops in its tracks, letting out a confused squeal at the sight of its revived opponent. Seething with a crimson aura, Damien glares at the beast, cursing the pig for almost killing him. He roars that the boar is dead, his body crackling with red and black energy. Squeal! The boar cries out in pain as Damien unleashes a furious flurry of punches. System notifications confirm the wild boar is now both bleeding and poisoned from the assault. With only 10 seconds of zombification left, Damien smirks that it's plenty of time and activates his plague aura. Vowing to turn the boar into bloody pulp, he unleashes a powerful punch as the 10-second countdown begins. He continues his relentless assault as the timer ticks down to 9 seconds. The boar recoils from the vicious onslaught, its head covered in a green aura as the timer hits 7 seconds. With 6 seconds left, Damien winds up a glowing green fist, ready to deliver another blow. Declaring, "You're done!" He lands a devastating uppercut that sends the boar flying. The boar is thrown into the air, bleeding profusely, as the countdown continues to 4 seconds. He lands on the fallen beast, pummeling it into the ground with 3 seconds remaining. Standing over the defeated boar, Damien pants as notifications announce he has leveled up to 16 with 1 second left. As the timer hits 0, Damien collapses to the ground, exhausted. A final notification confirms his zombification has ended as the red aura dissipates from his body. Looking up at the sky, his face smudged with dirt, he quietly declares his victory. System notifications appear, granting him the title The One Who Killed the Wild Boar Alone and confirming he has cleared the quest. A smirk spreads across his face as he relishes having hogged all the rewards and cleared the quest solo. He reviews the details of his new solo clear title, which provides significant stat boosts. While preparing to check his new items, Damien calls one of the drops a peculiar bastard. He suddenly turns, sensing a presence and thinking of an adventurer who rose from death. A towering, muscular old man with white dreadlocks appears, chuckling at how peculiar Damien is. Damien confronts the mysterious figure, demanding to know who he is, but a system window only identifies him as an unknown, ancient old man. He stares in shock, realizing he can't see the man's information. The old man leans in close, asking how he was able to move as a dead man, leaving Damien confused. The man suddenly grabs Damien's head, prompting him to cry out in surprise and pain. The old man inspects Damien's forehead, confirming from a small rune that he is an otherworld adventurer. Damien shoves the man away, demanding he keep his distance while thinking he stinks, as the old man thoughtfully wonders. The old man has an epiphany, and Damien cautiously asks what he sees. The man asks if Damien borrowed the power of darkness, causing him to react with a jolt of shock. The man clarifies that Damien used the power of darkness to become undead, noting it's a good trick for survival, as Damien remains silent. His eyes glowing red, the old man ominously asks why an adventurer is harboring a power equivalent to the Demon King. Damien stumbles back in shock as the man smugly states he can see it clearly. Damien stares back, utterly confused. A system window finally reveals the man's identity. Kirun, priest of the apocalypse, who is searching for someone to defeat a god queen and is extremely ill-tempered. Damien scoffs, wondering aloud if the old man is part of some kind of pseudo-cult. Glowing with a fiery aura, Kirun introduces himself as the 7th chief priest of the god Shaka, on a mission to defeat the queen of the gods. Ignoring Damien's plea to wait, Kirun decides to teach him a lesson. Much to Damien's alarm. Wham! Shut up! Kirun roars, lunging forward with a fist wreathed in dark energy. Damien recoils in shock as the powerful fist hurtles toward his face. Ducking just in time, Damien wonders why the old man is charging him so recklessly. As Kirun grabs his face, Damien shouts that the man is a crazy old coot. Ugh! Kirun's powerful punch connects, sending Damien flying with a grunt of pain. A massive pillar of golden energy erupts from the impact, devastating the surrounding area. Amid the fiery aftermath, Kirun questions how Damien managed to dodge, as Damien stares in awe at the destructive power. Damien sarcastically asks if he was supposed to die, while Kirun laughs, calling him a lively bastard. Crackling with a dark, fiery aura, Kirun challenges Damien to see how well he dodges the next attack. Panicked, Damien realizes he's facing an insane old man and desperately wonders what to do. The old man mentions a mainstream quest, leaving Damien completely baffled. An infographic explains that mainstream quests are rare, pivotal missions given to a select few users that decide the game's future. The text continues, stating that player actions in these quests can completely alter the world of AC. A flashback shows a warrior leading his army, illustrating the massive impact of mainstream quests. A thoughtful Damien wonders what this old man has to do with the mainstream, just as a realization begins to dawn. Kiran charges again, yelling at Damien for standing still like a log. Gritting his teeth, Damien turns to face the incoming assault. A flashback reveals a mainstream quest from the past. The battle god's mission was to defeat the demon Abraxas. The memory shows the hero and the 6 masters entering the abyss, the world's most difficult dungeon. The warriors confront the powerful, winged demon king Abraxas in his fiery domain. The memory concludes with the hero reflecting that the middle world would have perished if he hadn't cleared the quest. His eyes narrowing with determination, Damien realizes he must clear this quest, no matter the cost. Gears stomps forward, chastising Damien for dilly-dallying in front of him. Leaping into the air, Kirun radiates a brilliant golden light as he prepares to strike. Damien clasps his hands together, his eyes glowing as he chants in a strange, ancient language. A notification announces his bloody impulse skill as a red aura explodes from his back. He resolves to stop thinking and just act. Enveloped in crackling red energy, Damien vows to rely on pure impulse and approach the fight with sincerity. Kirun, still charging, furiously demands to know how long Damien will keep running away. Now with white hair and gray skin, Damien dodges a mighty blow, wondering how a non-martial artist can be so strong. Kirun yells, "Hold still," as Damien, now cloaked in a dark red aura, realizes his perception has heightened. He can now see the old man's movements with startling clarity. Hayek! Damien yelps as he barely evades a devastating kick from the charging priest. Realizing the quest's objective is simply to survive, the transformed Damien resolves to stall for time. Kirun pauses his assault, confused as he senses a change while gathering energy for another attack. Both combatants react with shock as a massive power surge builds between them. Kirun unleashes a blinding attack, daring Damien to dodge this one. Damien's red eyes widen in horror as his glowing tattoos flare, and he curses in disbelief. "Die!" Kirun screams as a catastrophic wave of golden energy engulfs Damien. "Ah!" Damien cries out in agony as the blast tears him apart. The explosion leaves a massive crater, with a lone figure kneeling in its center. Amidst swirling red smoke, Damien kneels, his white hair flowing, having miraculously survived the attack. Kirun stands at the crater's edge, calmly complimenting Damien on his great body. With a single second left on a timer, Damien grins menacingly, retorting that his body is nothing compared to Kirun's. As the notification confirms his zombification has ended, Damien collapses back to his normal form, thinking he was about to die. Kirun snorts dismissively, remarking that Damien's mouth is still alive at least. Smirking with a lingering red aura in his eyes, Damien says he knows how he got this chance and intends to live to the fullest. Damien gets up with Kirun's help, asking if he didn't recognize him before. The priest laughs, saying of course he did, which makes Damien question the name Shaka. Kirun speaks of Shaka, the best god of Arcia, as a dark, menacing silhouette with glowing purple eyes looms behind him. Pondering this, Damien recalls that the supreme goddess is Arya of the Light, and that there are other great gods. He mentally lists the 6 great gods: Phoenix of Fire, Nysa of Water, Tenasil of Tree, Oriete of Iron, and Crowd of Earth, and questions Kirun's claim. Damien laughs awkwardly, pretending to understand, while secretly thinking that the system wouldn't lie about the number of gods. Kirun clears his throat, ready to get to the point, much to Damien's silent annoyance after the earlier chaos. The old man suddenly has a thought, letting out a surprised, "Huh?" Standing before the towering priest, Damien hesitantly agrees with him. In that case, Kirun declares with a grand gesture, Damien should become his disciple. Damien is rendered speechless with shock, his yellow eyes wide at the unexpected offer. Turning to leave, Damien dismissively wishes him a nice day, enraging Kirun, who calls him a brat. Q, an enraged Kirun, smacks Damien on the head, demanding to know where the brat is going. Rubbing his head, Damien calls the priest a senile old man, only for Kirun to call him an arrogant brat in return. Kirun heatedly proclaims that the power of his lord Shaka is absolutely unfathomable. He boasts that even trash like Damien can become a ruler, but Damien skeptically wonders who would believe such a crazy story. As Kirun shouts in protest, Damien calmly explains his disbelief at the random offer to become a disciple. Sighing, Kirun relents, preparing to offer proof if Damien must know the truth. He presents a dark book with a golden, skull-like sigil, telling Damien to take a look. A notification identifies the glowing tome as the Apocalypse Invocation, the Book of the Black Covenant, leaving Damien to wonder what it is. Kirun explains the divine book is the only way to meet Lord Shaka, prompting a shocked Damien to ask how. Kirun simply tells him to open it, an instruction Damien repeats with uncertainty. As Damien hesitates, Kirun sternly warns him not to move. The old priest suddenly swings a heavy staff down at a stunned Damien. Damien grunts in pain, finding himself on the ground with a heavy golden collar now locked around his neck. Now, in a dark cave, Damien clutches his head, cursing the senile old man for his actions. A notification confirms his location has been updated, as he angrily wonders if Kirun literally sent him to the underworld. Vowing revenge, Damien's attention is caught by a strange, bird-like shadow on the cave wall. He turns abruptly, alerted to a presence behind him. A curious boy wearing a horned skull mask and holding a skull staff appears from the darkness. This strange boy leans in close to a stunned Damien, who wonders what's going on. Two identical boys dance gleefully around Damien, who demands they stop and tell him where he is. The boy sniffs Damien's arm, remarking on a familiar, good scent, leaving Damien confused. The boy abruptly asks Damien to be friends, catching him completely off guard. With sparkling, inquisitive eyes, the boy with the skull mask leans in and asks, "You?" The boy asks if Damien doesn't have any friends, prompting an indignant Damien to insist that he has lots of friends. The boy offers to give Damien a friend, leaving him completely baffled by the strange proposal. Pointing into the darkness, the boy proudly presents his friend as Damien looks on skeptically. Peep, a tiny yellow chick emerges from the cave, and Damien stares in confusion. Suddenly, dozens of chirping chicks swarm out and pile onto the bewildered Damien. The boy grins, asking if his friends are amazing, while a chick-covered Damien grudgingly agrees. The boy leans in close, pressing Damien to agree to be his friend. With a bright smile, the boy declares that they are now friends. Damien's eyes widen as he suddenly feels a strange sensation. Feeling faint, Damien reaches out as he begins to lose consciousness, with the smiling boy looking on. Correct Damien jolts awake back at the campfire, where Kirun calmly announces his return to consciousness. "You?" Damien lunges forward and grabs Kirun by the beard, screaming that he's a goddamn senile old man. As Kirun demands to be released, Damien furiously retorts that he won't let go after being nearly killed. Hayek the old man winces in pain as Damien continues to pull his beard. "Ku?" Yelling for him to let go, Kirun slams his forehead into Damien's. Damien stumbles backward, completely dazed and disoriented from the powerful headbutt. Ugh! Damien clutches his head in agony, cursing that he's been knocked out again. Kirun, sitting calmly by the fire, asks if he's awake as Damien groans in pain. Now sitting up, Damien rubs his throbbing head, wondering if the old man's skull is made of rock. Kirun glares menacingly, asking what he just said, prompting a nervous Damien to quickly deny saying anything. Internally, Damien curses the surprisingly strong, homeless-looking old man, deciding to swallow his pride before asking what happened. Kirun ignores the question and instead asks what Damien discussed with Lord Shaka, leaving him confused. Damien recalls the skull-masked boy asking to be friends and declaring them as such, leaving him to ponder the strange encounter. Kirun strokes his beard, dismissing the interaction as unimportant, which only confuses Damien further. Kirun asks for confirmation that Lord Shaka wanted to be friends, and Damien agrees that's what happened for now. Kirun passionately explains that friendship is a bond of brotherly affection, meaning Shaka has chosen Damien as his successor. The revelation leaves Damien utterly stunned and speechless. Kirun matter-of-factly tells Damien that he just needs to follow him from now on. Laughing boisterously, Kirun celebrates the great news while a flustered Damien timidly asks if this is all right. As a blue notification window appears, Damien looks on and reluctantly convinces himself that it's a good thing. Kirun pats the ground, instructing Damien to sit, who wonders if they are about to meditate. Kirun clarifies he will instead share their upcoming plans, catching Damien by surprise. Declaring it an old story, Kirun begins to explain. As a small, annoyed Damien chibi sighs in exasperation, Kirun's story begins. There were 7 gods, including the beautiful goddess of creation, Arya of Light. The god of the apocalypse, Shaka, is introduced as the force that maintained the balance of life and death. Among the other gods, one suggests they should restrict Shaka's power, which is great enough to swallow them whole. Though they had differing opinions, the 6 gods ultimately agreed, secretly desiring Shaka's immense power for themselves. Thus began the Great War between the formidable Lord Shaka and the 6 other gods. The narration concludes that, in the end, Lord Shaka was finally defeated. Kirun explains that Shaka entrusted everything to his family and fell into an eternal slumber, maintaining only his divinity. His chest glowing with a soft light, Kirun solemnly concludes that the 7th god was forgotten by the people. Damien realizes this senile old man must be Shaka's family member. As Kirun explains, the 6 gods grew complacent after their victory. But with Shaka gone, evil spread across the land, as those who should have died no longer stayed dead. Damien finally understands. Shaka, the source of darkness, was the pillar of balance, and his absence created a void filled by evil. Kirun reveals he has wandered for thousands of years, seeking to resurrect Lord Shaka and find a warrior strong enough to defeat the 6 gods. With conviction, Kirun states that his millennia-long search was all leading to this very day. Kirun officially tasks Damien with becoming his disciple and the sword of Lord Shaka, destined to defeat the 6 gods and their families. Staring with intense, glowing eyes, Kirun asks the critical question, "Can you do it?" As a quest window materializes, Damien reflects on his role as the agent for a forgotten god and his vengeful sword. He suddenly remembers the man named Jiang Yuman, realizing with a smirk that he's from Arya's family. Tapping the quest window, Damien accepts, seeing this as an opportunity for his own revenge. He reasons that resurrecting the 7th god is a vital quest and a worthy cause, then stands with newfound resolve. Damien bows deeply, formally accepting Kirun as his master, who laughs heartily and proclaims him a worthy successor. With a determined smirk, Damien thinks to himself that after this training he can finally defeat that bastard. Damien formally bids his new master farewell, but is confused when Kirun casually tells him to take care. "Wait, master." Damien calls out in a panic as Kirun turns to leave, nonchalantly asking what he wants. Damien asks if Kirun has anything to teach him, but the old man says his job is done now that he has a successor. "Oh, right," Kirun says, suddenly remembering something and pulling out the dark, glowing book once more. He casually tosses the book on the ground, telling Damien to look up anything he needs in it. Kirun warns Damien not to look for him, then begins to glow as he summons a blue teleportation circle. Damien can only watch in stunned disbelief as his new master's feet begin to dematerialize. With a cheerful, "So long," Kirun vanishes completely in a brilliant pillar of light. Damien stares at the empty space where his master stood, shocked that he actually left, as the abandoned book flips open. As a new quest window appears, Damien clenches his fist in frustration, cursing the senile old man. The window confirms his new mainstream quest, Kirun's wish, to resurrect Shaka and defeat the 6 ruling gods. Damien stares at the monumental task before him, trembling as he wonders if he must truly do this all by himself. Overwhelmed by the monumental quest, Damien clutches his head and cries out in despair, wondering how he can possibly complete it. Ugh! In a fit of rage, Damien stomps his foot down hard. Staring at the glowing quest window, Damien questions if this is even possible, realizing he must face the families of the 6 gods. He recalls his former comrades who defeated Abraxas with him, the world's most elite warriors, starting with the fiery Crimson Agnes. Damien continues to list his powerful former allies: Siren of the Ice, Halo of the Mind, Cyrus of Steel, and Luke of the Boulder, all disaster-class members of the gods' families. He remembers the most formidable of them all from the family of Arya, Jiang Yumin, the radiant King Arthur. Recalling Jiang Yumin obtaining the Infinity Circle and becoming a god of magic, Damien doubts his ability to ever defeat him. Clenching his fist, Damien questions if he can truly bring himself to fight his former comrades. With a flash of determination in his golden eye, he tells himself there's no need to be scared just yet. Damien recalls the moment of his death, remembering how he thought it was the end. He remembers that at his lowest point, he was somehow given this chance to return to the past. Gritting his teeth with newfound resolve, Damien declares he will clear this goddamn quest no matter what. As a blue light glows from his tattooed arm, his determination solidifies. Huh? Damien looks on in surprise as the blue light intensifies around him. Notifications for item disassembly, synthesization, and creation appear as the book transforms, making Damien wonder if it's the legendary all-in-one multi-item. A smug Damien reads the book, realizing its versatile abilities make it a scam item, and is relieved he looked through it. With luck on his side, his eyes narrow as he decides to test the book's power. From his inventory, the book pulls a wild boar and a potion into a swirling vortex of light. With a final command to create, a brilliant green light erupts. As Damien eagerly awaits the result, he looks on with a slight frown, confused by what is materializing. A notification displays the newly crafted wild boar helmet, a common rank item for a witch doctor, detailing its stats. Damien analyzes the helmet's stats, wondering if this is his best option for now. He calculates the cost, realizing the wild boar's head was worth a significant amount of gold, equivalent to $5,000. Holding the boar skull, Damien realizes that while crafting is useful, he'll quickly go broke without an income. Deciding to be practical, he plans to give the boar leather to the village head. The scene shifts to a quaint house in a village nestled near the mountains. Damien presents the enormous boar carcass, leaving an unseen person speechless. The shocked village elder asks if Damien truly caught the beast himself, to which the helmeted warrior calmly confirms. Damien's intimidating wild boar helmet dominates the view, his single glowing eye peering out. The grateful elder sits at his desk and begins to write on a scroll with a feather quill. After finishing the letter, the elder looks up and thanks Damien. The elder presents the sealed scroll as a reward, and Damien gratefully accepts before the scene transitions to a bright, open sky. Damien arrives at a bustling seaside port filled with villagers and merchants. Now, wearing the boar helmet, Damien checks his status, noting his level is 16, and he's gained the titles Atrocity and Agent of Revenge. He sighs, realizing that at only level 16, he still has a very long way to go. He examines the Agent of Revenge title, which grants massive PvP bonuses to attack, defense, and resistances. Damien realizes the title is designed for player killing, a thought that makes him uncomfortable as he dislikes killing people. As he sits on a bench contemplating his pseudo-religious quest, a sudden, terrified scream of "Ah!" shatters the peace. Startled, Damien looks up from his thoughts toward the commotion. A terrified, beaten man on the ground desperately pleads for someone to save him. A smirking, black-haired man in a white hood and his robed cronies loom menacingly over their victim. The hooded leader grabs the man's hair, telling him to just pay up and make it easy. Damien recognizes the aggressors as killer mages, notorious for player killing in the early game. The group's leader spots Damien, who warily notes his obvious authority. The killer mage leader addresses a crowd of travelers, demanding a toll to pass, and Damien observes his skill in blockading the wharf. A blonde-haired man in the crowd glares defiantly at the mages. Refusing to be intimidated, the blonde man firmly grips the hilt of his sword. With a defiant roar, the man charges forward, yelling, "Go fuck yourself!" The hooded mage leader looks on, merely surprised by the sudden resistance. Dismissing the attacker as a foreigner, the leader calmly begins to cast a spell, a blue magic circle glowing brightly in his hand. With a cry of "Energy Bolt!" the hooded mage leader unleashes a torrent of lightning that strikes the charging blonde man, who screams in agony. As the blonde man convulses, the mage leader wonders if his warning wasn't clear enough. With glowing red eyes and a cruel smirk, the mage leader gathers more crackling blue energy in his hand. The blonde man is repeatedly struck by bolts of electricity, his body flailing helplessly. The crowd watches in horror, with one man thinking, "Those crazy bastards," while another murmurs, "Oh my." The blonde man collapses, choking, as the mage leader's taunting voice echoes in his mind. Hey, what a great sight to see. The grinning mage leader orders his cronies to send their guest off well, now that he's leaving. The robed mages prepare a volley of spells, their hands glowing with bright blue magic circles. Suddenly, a brutal, bloody slash tears through one of the mages, sending him flying. Huh? The mage leader and his cronies turn in shock to see their fallen comrade on the ground. One of the mages screams in terror, realizing his companion was beheaded in a single strike. Another mage spots the attacker, frantically pointing and yelling, "Ha! Oh, over there!" Damien stands revealed, wearing his boar skull helmet and holding a bloody blade, his intimidating presence silencing the crowd. A close-up reveals Damien's single glowing golden eye peering out from the shadows of his helmet. The remaining mages tremble in terror, utterly shaken by this sudden and brutal turn of events. The unnerved mage leader clenches his teeth, demanding to know who the hell this newcomer is. Damien points his blade at the mages and coldly demands, "Pay up," leaving the leader to ask, "What?" With glowing eyes, Damien clarifies they must pay with their lives, giving them 10 seconds to comply. Damien turns his back on the mages, the bodies of their comrades lying at his feet. As the enraged leader thinks Damien is a crazy bastard, the warrior begins his countdown. 10, 9, 8. Holding up his hand, Damien continues counting down from 5, his calm demeanor unnerving the mages. As the countdown nears its end, one of the mages thinks this bastard is asking to die. The furious mage leader orders his men to stop hesitating and kill the defiant warrior. Damien reaches the final second of his countdown, turning to face his opponents. His glowing eye and blood-slicked blade gleam with deadly intent. The mages suddenly find he's vanished, the leader looking around in confusion. A split second later, the leader screams in terror, yelling for everyone to dodge. A blinding flash of golden light erupts from the ground, engulfing the mages in a stunning explosion. The mages writhe in agony, screaming as their eyes are seared by the light, one begging to be saved. The bewildered leader stands amidst the chaos, wondering what the hell is happening as his men fall. Damien stands over the fallen, calmly counting the bodies around him. He reflects on how the Agent of Revenge title boosted his PvP damage from his various poison and elixir skills. Damien comments on defeating so many at once, as the surviving leader curses him from afar. Displaying a glowing poison flask, Damien taunts the mage leader, asking if the outcome exceeded his expectations. The scene cuts back to the blonde man, Brian, who sits dazed on the ground after being electrocuted. A woman named Wendy rushes to his side, asking if he's all right. Brian confusedly asks where he is. His memory returns as he flashes back to the moment the mages attacked him. In a fit of rage, Brian slams his fist into the ground, shouting, "Shit!" Wendy tries to calm Brian, reminding him they're in the middle of a stream, a meta joke about their situation. Brian glares at a chat window where viewers mock him, fueling his frustration. Wendy advises him to wait, but Brian philosophically asks about when a streamer truly dies. Elsewhere in the crowd, a serious-looking man with blue-gray hair watches the unfolding events with intense focus. Dumbfounded by his question, Wendy can only watch as Brian declares he will crush the mages. Suddenly, Brian is engulfed in a pillar of orange flames, much to Wendy's horror. A bald mage gawks as one of his comrades is consumed by the fire behind him. Looking up in terror, the mage leader counts more of his men being taken down. Laughing maniacally, Damien stands over another victim, continuing his body count. The terrified mage leader watches the carnage, unable to comprehend Damien's terrifying level of control. Desperate, the leader screams at his remaining men to use their reserved mana and attack at once. The last of the mages rally, charging their spells, as they vow to kill the bastard who decimated their ranks. With a smirk, Damien decides to use his Bloody Impulse skill again, as red energy gathers in his hands. The remaining mages unleash a combined volley of lightning, screaming for Damien to die. The torrent of blue energy converges into a massive, destructive blast. Panting heavily, the mages stand in the aftermath of their unified attack. One of the anxious mages nervously asks his companion if they managed to hit him. Before he can get an answer, a mage is suddenly struck down, blood spraying from his head. The mage leader gasps as Damien appears behind him, completely unharmed and laughing menacingly. Grinning sadistically while holding his staff, Damien comments on the amazing effect of his power. The terrified mages question if Damien is even human, wondering how he dodged so many attacks. Realizing they will all die at this rate, the furious mage leader tells his men to endure for just 3 minutes. Damien looks on in confusion, wondering what the leader is plotting. Gathering an immense amount of lightning, the mage leader vows to make Damien a fried skewer. Watching on a streaming device, a crowd member sees the chat explode with disbelief and amazement. Brian laughs with excitement at the spectacle, while Wendy sighs, muttering, "Seriously." Wendy shakes Brian, shouting that it's no time to be admiring their opponent. Addressing his viewers, Brian remarks on his chaotic performance, asking them what they think. He gasps, noticing his viewer count has surged to over 236,000, and his streamer instinct tells him this is a golden opportunity. Turning to Wendy with a grin, Brian asks if she's ready, to which she confusedly asks, "For what?" Brian points toward the battle, declaring his intent to focus his stream on that guy. A desperate mage unleashes an energy bolt directly at Damien. Damien effortlessly deflects the incoming spell with a casual swing of his staff. He turns his attention to the mage leader, sensing he is preparing something big. The mage leader's eyes glow with red energy as he concentrates his powerful lightning spell. Deciding to investigate, Damien charges forward, causing the panicked mages to scream that he's coming. The mages scatter in terror, abandoning their formation as their leader yells at them for fleeing. The mage leader clenches his teeth, having finally gathered enough mana for his spell. Damien closes in, his body radiating red power as he taunts that the leader's death is imminent. The mage leader unleashes his ultimate attack, shouting, enchant status, call lightning. A massive bolt of lightning descends from the sky, trapping Damien within powerful magic circles as the leader yells, die. The spell erupts in a blinding explosion of magical light and energy. Brian and Wendy watch from the sidelines, their faces etched with shock. Standing amid the smoldering aftermath, the mage leader pants, exhausted from the powerful spell. He breaks into a triumphant grin, confident that his attack was successful. Oh, as his body continues to absorb the energy. The surviving mages erupt in cheers, praising their leader, Park Man-doo, and exclaiming that they believed in him. Park Man-doo gloats to his men, smugly asking if he didn't tell them it would work. His victorious smile falters as he peers into the dissipating smoke, sensing something is wrong. Turning his head with a confused, "Huh?" he sees the smoke clearing. From the dust, Damien's shadow emerges as Park Man-doo remarks that the attack hurt a little. Damien stands unscathed, now glowing with a brilliant golden aura and a confident smirk. As Damien approaches, Park Man-doo nervously acknowledges his opponent's intelligence and good sense. Panicked, Park Man-doo raises his hands to desperately cast another spell, stuttering and memorize. In a flash, Damien closes the distance, leaving the mage leader to only question, "Huh?" Park Man-doo screams in agony as his arm is severed, while Damien coldly states he shouldn't have fooled around. The defeated leader collapses, and Damien advises him to stop thinking since he can't run away. With a menacing grin, Damien declares his creed. Kindness is repaid 100-fold, but revenge 1,000-fold. A brutal scream echoes across the port as a final, decisive blow is struck. Brian stares at the scene from afar, utterly speechless and whispering, "Holy shit." Wendy can't bear to watch the brutal display, as Brian thinks to himself that he was the one who planned on killing Damien. Writhing in agony, Brian thinks that the brutal display is just too much. Damien mockingly offers to save a fallen mage by pouring a sizzling green potion on him, prompting the victim to realize he's not a warrior, but the devil himself. Continuing his thought, the defeated mage calls Damien the devil, as Damien raises a drinking horn, thinking, since it'll feel better to beat you up, Damien thinks, delivering a brutal beatdown to his foe, who lets out a pained roar. Damien catches the desperate dagger thrust of his opponent, remarking with a sigh of relief that it took a while to finish. Standing over the defeated foe, Damien receives notifications that he has committed a player kill and that his alignment has bottomed out, then asks his opponent why he fought a losing battle. Damien smiles as system notifications flood his screen, showing he's looted hundreds of beginners' t-shirts and coarse leather leggings. Sifting through his massive haul of loot, Damien wonders what to do with it all when a sudden glow on his body catches him by surprise. He gasps in shock, his golden eyes wide as he exclaims that this is insane. A system notification reveals he's obtained over 3.4 million gold, leaving him utterly flabbergasted. Calculating the real-world value to be thousands of dollars, Damien grins, realizing this is a massive windfall. Deciding to cash in immediately, Damien opens the game bank and posts a listing to sell 3 million gold cheaply. He smirks, seeing replies pour in instantly, confident that he'd find plenty of buyers. With a sly grin, Damien thoughtfully considers which eager buyer he should choose. A notification announces his bank rank has upgraded to VIP, and Damien chuckles, impressed by the game bank's speed. A final notification shows a total selling price of over 35 million won, sparking a profound realization for Damien. Now wearing leopard print shorts, Damien throws his hands up in celebration, declaring that the game AC is the future. The scene shifts to Cambridge, Massachusetts, where Brian stands on a city street. In an office, a man named Alan Jacobs, CEO of the streaming platform Switch, remarks that his coffee tastes good today. An employee enters and informs Alan that COO William Ballmore is looking for him. Alan tells him to send William in. William Ballmore enters the office, politely greeting Alan. Now identified as the COO, William sits down and notes that Alan seems to be in a good mood. Alan explains his good mood is due to his curiosity about William's news, while William listens intently. William sips his coffee, promising surprising news and piquing Alan's interest. William asks if Alan knows about AC, and Alan correctly identifies it as a game. Alan confirms he knows of the trending game, noting many of their streamers play it, and asks if there's an issue. William presents a tablet to his boss, telling him to take a look. Alan takes the tablet, observing that it's this week's hottest clip. As Alan views the hot clip, William suggests they have a new prospective streamer and asks for his opinion. William smiles with quiet confidence, clasping his hands together. The scene returns to a medieval town, where a brown-haired man is on the phone with his mother. Meanwhile, Damien is also on a call, telling his mom he sent her money from a bonus, but she sounds skeptical about his finances. Damien laughs it off, promising to visit soon before hanging up with a wave. Pleased with himself for sending money to his mom, Damien looks at his remaining funds and considers investing them. A narration explains how games like AC sparked a cryptocurrency boom, a trend Jin Sung, Damien's real name, planned to exploit. Jin Sung decides to invest $3 million first, selecting a cryptocurrency futures stock. He decisively presses the buy button, committing to the investment. Jin Sung watches in horror as his loss rate plummets, and a notification declares his funds have been forcibly liquidated. In disbelief, he wonders how his money vanished in seconds and desperately tries to check the fluctuation chart again. He stares blankly at the crash chart, which suddenly shows a sharp increase in value moments after he was wiped out. Cursing, Jin Sung realizes with certainty that someone interfered with the market. Clenching his fist in frustration, he concludes that there's only one option left for him. With tears of determination, Jin Sung resolves that the game, AC, is all he has now. The scene transitions to the bustling metropolis of Chengchun City in China. A man runs frantically towards the Zhengsan startup business factory, shouting for his gig. Bursting through a doorway, the panicked man reports that something terrible has happened. A man with a goatee, identified as CEO Mingchen, lights a cigarette and coolly asks his subordinate why he's there. The subordinate stammers about the game bank as an annoyed Mingchen demands to know what's wrong. The subordinate reveals that a listing for 3 million gold has appeared, leaving Mingchen in utter shock. Mingchen furiously calls it bullshit, refusing to believe it, but his subordinate insists it's real and shows him the proof on his tablet. In his office, CEO Mingchen stares at his phone in disbelief, thinking how it's only been 2 weeks since he joined the AC gaming company. A flashback shows Mingchen giving a presentation on a VR capsule, explaining he handled all the operational equipment and secured a huge investment. Recalling his business plan, Mingchen remembers purchasing a large quantity of Galaxy M24 app capsules with his investment money. His train of thought is broken by the sight on his phone. Damien's listing to sell 3 million gold cheaply, already flooded with comments. Bam! Mingchen slams his fist down in outrage, exclaiming that 3 million gold exceeds the entire output of his company, Zhengsan. As his subordinate tries to restrain him, Mingchen fumes that a single person is crashing the gold market and undercutting them. Mingchen furiously grabs his subordinate, demanding to know why he's only hearing this now, while the terrified employee stammers that he was trying to tell him. Clutching his tablet, Mingchen realizes with dread that at this rate, Zhengsan's value will collapse, and he'll be bankrupt. He furiously orders his subordinate to find out who the seller is, and the panicked man quickly agrees, rushing away. The scene shifts to a large, white-sailed ship departing from a port and heading out into the open sea. On the ship's deck, Damien relaxes, thinking that while the island was chaotic, he's grateful to Park Man-do for leaving him with so many items. Deciding to process his loot, Damien opens his inventory screen and considers which items to disassemble first. After disassembling an item, he gets a notification for acquiring 8 low-grade iron ingrins, realizing this is a way to make even more money. Smirking, Damien notes that he also leveled up significantly thanks to his atrocity title and decides to check his status. His status window reveals he is Damien, a level 20 witch doctor with bottomed out alignment, the atrocity title, and extremely high intelligence. Damien thoughtfully considers his skills, having already invested in Bloody Impulse and Corrupted Elixir, and decides to review the others. His skill list displays Bloody Impulse, Corrupted Elixir, Control the Dead, and Voodoo Doll, detailing their effects. He scoffs, thinking the new skills are terrible since Control the Dead only summons weak monsters and Voodoo Doll requires an extra item. Believing he will find a use for them eventually, Damien is suddenly surprised by a notification that a new location has been updated. Looking out at the other players, Damien smiles, stating that they've finally arrived. A notification announces his arrival at the Terra Kingdom's dock, on the main continent, as his world map updates. As he disembarks, Damien waves goodbye to a pirate NPC, offering his thanks. Stepping onto the docks, Damien looks around at the bustling port, remarking that it's a familiar view. A narration describes the location as one of the most lively kingdoms on the eastern Arcia continent. Damien walks toward the towering city gates, identifying the city as Terra, the heart of the continent's eastern side. Inside, the city is flooded with players whose chat messages fill the air, discussing guild recruitment, quests, and live streams. Damien calmly observes the crowd, thinking it's just as he remembers and noting that no one has noticed his dangerous nature. He walks past a group of players shouting recruitment offers for dungeon raids and temporary mercenary work. A confident smile appears on Damien's face as he spots his destination in the distance. He arrives at the bustling Adventurers Guild filled with various adventurers and guild employees. Inside, a guild employee tries to reason with an adventurer, insisting that a platinum-grade request needs another look. Damien pushes through the dense crowd, apologizing as he declares he'll be late if he stands around. A bearded guild manager with a prominent mustache suddenly shouts for someone named Maria. The manager, now identified as Hatsan, loudly orders Maria to bring him all of the day's adventurer applications, and she eagerly complies. As Hatsan writes at his desk, he looks up with a confused "huh" as Damien approaches. Damien stands before Hatsan with a wide grin, cheerfully stating he would like to get a license. Hatsan compliments Damien's sharp eyes for a new adventurer, but Damien reveals he simply looked up Hatsan's name, which the manager acknowledges as basic mercenary awareness. Hatsan muses that Damien is quick to catch on, as a narration explains the Adventurers Guild is a facility used by both players and NPCs across the continent. The narration continues, explaining the guild connects quest givers with adventurers, though few utilize it well. Hatsan is impressed with Damien's quick grasp. Hatsan asks if he wants to apply right away for the required license, and Damien confirms that he's heard about it. Pleased with his directness, Hatsan calls for Maria to bring another guild license application. He explains that the license is issued after a 10-stage arena test, with tiers assigned based on performance, which Damien affirms he understands. Damien correctly deduces that he's being told to prepare before taking the test for a high grade, and Hatsan agrees there's no need to explain further. Hatsan begins to say something else, but Damien cuts him off, simply stating, no. With a determined grin, Damien declares he'll take the test right now, convinced it won't make a difference. Hatsan grows concerned, asking if he'll really be okay, and warning him that it's hard to prepare once he goes in. Damien smirks, coolly replying that a test is meant to prove one's existing skills. Impressed by his incredible confidence, Hatsan picks up the application and tells Damien to follow him. Damien receives a quest notification for the FFF-class license exam, which requires him to pass the test to earn a license. Staring at the quest window, Damien smirks, thinking it's been a while, and prepares to begin. Stepping into the waiting area, Damien looks on with a hint of surprise. A massive crowd of adventurers waits anxiously in the Colosseum for the exam to begin. Maria, using a megaphone, cheerfully calls adventurers 301 to 400, telling them to get ready for their exam. As a fellow adventurer offers a reassuring pat, Damien thanks him politely. A massive spiked metal gate begins to rumble open with a heavy groan. A narration explains the door is a summon gate, a masterpiece created by Master Arceus, as adventurers are shoved towards the ominous opening. Maria explains the 10-stage exam is beyond the door, and they can forfeit if needed, while a nervous adventurer asks if the monsters are real. Hatsan explains that while the monsters are illusions created by guild mages, there's little difference from reality, making it a practical test for adventurers. With a sinister smile, Maria announces the exam will now begin as the gate slams shut, trapping adventurers inside. Damien and the other remaining adventurers are startled by the sudden and unceremonious start of the test. A blood-curdling scream echoes from behind the now sealed gate. Inside, terrifying demonic creatures brutally attack the trapped adventurers, whose cries for help fill the air. Hearing the screams, Damien wonders if the next stage has already begun, while the adventurer beside him looks on in horror. More screams erupt, as a voice from inside frantically orders everyone to kill the monsters. The waiting adventurers stare in fear, murmuring among themselves about how dangerous the situation looks. Maria calmly holds her megaphone, trying to placate the crowd by insisting it's just illusion magic. A group of adventurers, including a man with an eye patch, reacts in shock, realizing it's already their turn. As frightened adventurers accuse the guild of trying to kill them, Damien calmly stretches, pondering if it's time for him to get some action. Maria explains with a disarming smile that the test simply requires clearing monsters to advance, as if it's perfectly normal. Offering an ultimatum, Maria tells anyone unhappy with the test to leave, but warns they'll lose their adventurer's license. One adventurer tries to rally morale, reasoning that since it's a game, they can just die and respawn in 60 hours. With a chilling smile, Maria announces the start of the next exam. A system window appears, welcoming the new group to the summon gate and outlining the rules of the 10-stage monster clearing exam. Another notification adds a grim rule for solo players. Failure to defeat a monster means elimination, as Damien contemplates the rules and a 10-minute timer begins. Damien surveys the 9 other people in his testing area, noting that he doesn't recognize any of their faces. As a final announcement wishes them luck, Damien looks on thoughtfully, questioning if that's all the information they'll receive. Damien frowns, realizing the guild purposefully omitted the fact that the test includes a battle royale element where participants fight each other. A pink-haired user named I'm Umju V tells her partner, Umju's husband, that she's scared and wants to leave. He agrees to get them out quickly. A man in shiny armor approaches a different pair of wary-looking adventurers. The man, whose username is Gentle-Mannered Guy, smoothly suggests they team up, calling their meeting Fate. He tempts them with the prospect of a silver-tier license, while Damien silently assesses his expensive, rare iron armor set. The Gentle-Mannered Guy introduces his party members from the beta test. Row a good, open your mouth, a heal is coming, and it's Minky. After the Gentle-Mannered Guy successfully recruits the new pair, Damien internally smirks, thinking the man's silver tongue is his real weapon. The Gentle-Mannered Guy turns his attention to the last person he hasn't spoken to, a woman in dark armor. The mysterious woman in black and purple armor stands silently against the wall, with her arms crossed. The Gentle-Mannered Guy offers a friendly greeting, but the woman coldly shuts him down, calling his words bullshit. Furious, the woman tells him to get lost, and flatly refuses to party with idiots. While the Gentle-Mannered Guy asks if her words aren't too harsh, his archer companion mutters about the gigolo-looking guy. The countdown hits 0, and the test begins with a horrifying shriek as the two argue. Keek. A horde of glowing blue goblins and monsters materializes in the arena, letting out terrifying shrieks. The Gentle-Mannered Guy quickly draws his sword, rallying his party to get ready for the fight. He confidently declares they will fight together to earn a high tier, though his expression betrays a condescending thought about the guild's low standards. Smirking, he thinks to himself that the guild is looking down on them by handing out licenses so easily. Kayak. He swiftly impales a goblin, cutting it down with a single blow. He watches in shock as the goblin he just killed begins to reform from shimmering blue data. The Gentle-Mannered Guy is left speechless and horrified by the impossible regeneration. With a confident smirk, Damien suddenly appears, punching a monster and announcing he got one, stunning the armored player. Damien's powerful tattooed fist connects squarely with a goblin's jaw. As the Gentle-Mannered Guy demands to know what he's doing, Damien uses another player's back as a springboard, glowing with red power. The goblins swarm the terrified player on the ground as he screams for them to wait. Notifications announce Damien's defeat of 2, then 10 illusory goblins as their forms dissolve. Wiping his brow, Damien stands tall as an announcement confirms the first stage is over and he has obtained 10 points. As the gate to the second stage opens, Damien walks toward it, leaving the Gentle-Mannered Guy staring in utter disbelief. The Gentle-Mannered Guy fumes, enraged that a thief has appeared and ruined his plan to monopolize all the points. The armored man grabs Damien's loincloth, shouting at him for killing the monsters, but Damien casually dismisses him, asking if a dog is barking. Damien coolly reflects that the test is about killing the most monsters, but the one who survives to the end gets the highest tier license. Seething with rage, the gentle-mannered guy grips his sword hilt, calling Damien a bastard. "I'm going to kill you," he snarls, lunging at Damien, who shows a flicker of surprise. In response to the attack, Damien calmly takes out a glowing green potion marked with a skull. Crash! He shatters the potion directly in the armored man's face, who cries out in pain. The gentle-mannered guy stumbles back, clutching his eyes, screaming that he can't see as his party looks on. Blinded and furious, he swings his sword wildly, demanding to know where Damien is. Effortlessly sidestepping the wild swing, Damien remarks with amusement, "Oh, not bad." Sensing movement, the armored man turns sharply, asking if Damien is over there. Damien notes with interest that his opponent is reading his presence instead of panicking, thinking this might not be so easy. The gentle-mannered guy furiously berates his party, demanding to know why they are just standing there and not helping him. Spurred to action, his party members cast their skills, shouting, "Cure," "Hawk's Eye," and "Fireball." As healing magic restores his vision, the armored man grins maniacally, declaring that Damien is dead now. He unleashes the Counter-Strike skill, charging forward with a furious scream of die. His sword smashes into the wall, and he looks around in shock, wondering where his target went. "Over here, bastard," Damien says, suddenly appearing and punching the priest square in the face. As the priest collapses, the pink-haired girl and her blue-haired partner look on in stunned horror. A hand suddenly clamps over the horrified pink-haired girl's mouth, silencing her. With the girl in a headlock, Damien warns the others that if they kill her, they all die. Her blue-haired partner screams in outrage, calling Damien a trashy bastard as the party watches, stunned. Damien taunts them to shoot, prompting the blue-haired man to look to his leader in confusion. With a crazed expression, the gentle-mannered guy frantically screams at his party to hurry up and shoot. He yells at them to stop hesitating, but the blue-haired man stares back in disbelief, questioning the insane order. The armored man grabs him by the collar, desperately asking if he's really not going to shoot. Cute enraged by the hesitation, the gentle-mannered guy punches his own party member. He screams at his stunned party, but they freeze in terror, with the priest pleading not to shoot while the archer mutters about their idiotic leader. The two adventurers he recruited earlier back away in horror, asking what he's doing and if he's insane. Gritting his teeth, the gentle-mannered guy holds his sword to his own chin, thinking they're all pathetic bastards. The blue-haired man looks up in confusion, as a bright light suddenly flashes before him. Kyok, he collapses, dead, as the pink-haired girl screams his name from Damien's grasp, his eyes glowing with rage. The gentle-mannered guy lunges at Damien, screaming to kill them all. Damien meets his charge with a sinister grin, his own eyes glowing yellow as he holds the hostage. Kayak. Damien looks down at the terrified girl, telling his charging opponent that he is more idiotic than he thought. Damien internally muses that it's typical for show-offs to reveal themselves as nothing special in the end. He recalls their first meeting, thinking he tried to avoid him, but had expected his true colors to show eventually. With a final scream of, "Die!" the armored man brings his sword down. His powerful strike is stopped cold, clashing against a brilliant flash of light. Damien effortlessly blocks the sword with a single powerful axe kick. The kick slams into the man's shoulder, throwing him off balance as he screams in pain. Coughing, the man is sent flying backward by another swift kick to the chest. The remaining party members finally attack, unleashing a barrage of ranged skills toward Damien. The magical onslaught explodes around Damien, but he emerges completely unscathed from the smoke. Before the stunned armored man can react, Damien lands a solid punch to his face. He follows up with a powerful kick, sending the armored man reeling once more. As a party member shouts a useless warning to dodge, the gentle-mannered guy is sent flying by the force of the blow. The archer stares in absolute shock, muttering that Damien is a crazy bastard. Screaming in terror, the archer is obliterated in a massive flash of golden light. The gentle-mannered guy lies defeated on the ground, looking up at Damien's approaching feet. Annoyed, Damien crushes the man's head under his foot, vowing to kill him in one blow as he screams in agony. With cold resolve, Damien glares down, ready to deliver the final, decisive strike. Phew. As the bodies of his defeated opponents dissolve into light, Damien sighs, thinking that the fight is over. He frowns, suddenly suspicious about why all the other participants who seemed fine have suddenly left. Kayak. A sudden sound makes him whip his head around in startled confusion. He turns to see the woman in dark armor holding a bloody dagger to her own throat, pleading for someone to save her. Coughing weakly, she meets his confused gaze as he wonders what is happening. A notification announces a player named Lua Bong 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 has left, as Damien realizes the woman killed another player disguised as a hostage. The woman, whose username is revealed to be Guillemot, stands confidently and asks if Damien is the only one left. Replying that he is, Damien inspects her +9 sashimi knife, thinking its stats are insane. Guillemot calls him skilled for having no items, but Damien retorts that she is just in quote overgeared noble. Deciding she will be a difficult opponent, Damien picks up the fallen armored man's sword, just in case. TSK, Guillemot smirks, mockingly asking what he plans to do with a sword he's never used. Damien holds the blade, coolly remarking that she's as talkative as the last guy he fought. Acknowledging that assassins are tough opponents, Damien assesses the situation and decides to fight her anyway. With little time left, Damien points the sword at her, telling her to shut up and attack. Furious, Gampois glares at him, promising to make the bastard regret his words. She lunges forward in a blur of purple energy, moving with incredible speed as Damien watches in surprise. Guillemot unleashes a furious spinning attack, creating a vortex of dark purple energy. A system window identifies her attack as the Kunoichi skill, Tiger's Molar. Damien grunts as he successfully parries the powerful strike, their weapons clashing in a burst of light. He admits she's no joke and his title saved him, but she taunts him, saying his fighting spirit is good but his arms are too weak. Stunned that he blocked her strongest skill, Guillemot glares in disbelief and demands to know what he is. What am I wonder? Damien asks cryptically while flipping backward to dodge her follow-up strike. She activates another Kunoichi skill, Mist Steps, surrounding them in a disorienting purple haze. The swirling purple mist completely engulfs the area, obscuring all vision. Damien realizes this must be the stealth skill she used to secretly eliminate the other participants. From within the mist, Guillemot taunts him, laughing that he's helpless and the sight suits him well. Damien realizes her stealth isn't perfect and correctly predicts her attack from the top right at a 45-degree angle. As she leaps from the mist to strike, he raises his hand, now glowing with a green skull mark, ready to counter. "You rat-like bastard!" she screams, enraged that he keeps dodging her attacks. Her taunt is cut short as Damien suddenly appears and grabs her arm mid-attack. She stares in horror at the green energy spreading from his hand, crying out, "W-H, what's that?" Casually calling it a skill, Damien hurls her across the battlefield. "Erg." She winces in pain, looking down at her arm in confusion as a green glow persists. The mysterious green energy suddenly spreads, consuming her entire body as she looks on in shock. Bound and immobilized on the ground, she furiously accuses him of being a perverted bastard. He looks down on her, stating she hasn't grasped the situation yet, to which she can only respond with a confused, "What?" Damien gives her an ultimatum: surrender all her items for a painless end, or keep shouting and face a cruel one. "Kia," she gasps as he presses the blade closer, demanding again that she surrender everything. Holding the blade to her face, he gives her a final warning and begins a 10-second countdown. After the fight, Damien licks his lips with a satisfied smile, thinking the outcome was pretty nice. He reviews his impressive loot from Guillemot, noting her overgeared equipment is incompatible with ordinary gear. Holding a garter belt, he remarks on the nice loot just as the timer announces the start of the next test. As the next test begins, Damien stands before a massive new gate, noting how quickly time is passing. Gripping the powerful dagger he just acquired, Damien stares forward with grim determination. Squeak, a horde of armored were-rats appears, and Damien resolves to get this over with quickly. Squeak, with a swift stab of his new dagger, Damien dispatches an armored were-rat phantom. Standing victorious over a pile of defeated were-rats, Damien completes the second test as the system calculates his results. A system notification welcomes him to test level 3 and begins a 10-minute countdown. Impatient, Damien declares he doesn't need to wait, prompting a system window to ask if he wishes to skip the waiting period. Holding the dagger between his teeth, Damien readies himself for the instant start of the next challenge. KRRR, cackling skeletons and snarling red-eyed hounds immediately swarm him in a chaotic assault. Kiar. A montage of pain ensues as various monsters, including orcs and goblins, cry out as they are cut down. Now bloodied but undeterred, Damien clears test level 7 and wonders what monsters are coming next. As he anticipates, a roaring horde of lizardmen appears to begin the next wave. Kiar. A savage lizardman lunges forward, tongue out and claws extended, to strike him down. With a focused grunt, Damien's eye glows with golden light as he prepares to meet the attack. He easily parries the blow with the stolen sword, internally noting his ability to proficiently wield any weapon. He recalls his past life, where he cleared the gladiator mode, a challenge requiring him to fight with only given equipment. This brutal training culminated in him being the first to clear 100 levels, earning him the title of Grand Weapon Master. Back in the present, he grips the sword, knowing his body instinctively remembers every bit of his hard-earned practice. He unleashes a furious storm of slashes, moving like a blur as he carves through the lizardman horde. Stepping on the head of the last defeated lizardman, a notification confirms he has eliminated all 10 phantoms. Splattered with their blood, Damien holds the sword at the ready and calmly calls for the next challenge. As the bodies of the fallen monsters dissolve, he walks toward the gate for test level 9. Elsewhere, unseen hands hold a glowing crystal ball as a man's voice asks someone named Maria for an update on the testing ground. A blonde maid, Maria, replies to a bearded man that nothing has changed and asks if any candidates are ready for the front lines. The man asks if her standards are too high, but she dismisses this, stating the current applicants are only useful as human shields who won't last long. He sighs, lamenting how hard it is to find guild-worthy talent and worrying that NPCs are becoming more useful than explorers. Maria chides him for being greedy, reminding him that they are only looking for obedient battle machines. The scene shifts to a diverse group of adventurers, as a narrator explains that explorer guilds accept members from all walks of life. A line of adventurers waits outside a guild hall as the narration clarifies that this results in high-level quests being left undone. The bearded man lights a cigar, resigning himself to another busy month of training new recruits from the ground up to fill the gap. Maria suddenly interjects that there is one unique case, catching the man's attention as he asks what she means. He reflects on her fearsome reputation as Black Rose Maria Jones, a strict war mercenary, and realizes her unique candidate must be extraordinary. With a sly smile, Maria turns back to her crystal ball, coyly asking him if he doesn't find the situation quite unique. The man stares at the orb in shock, exclaiming that 9 people died in the very first level. He realizes they weren't killed by the stage's monsters, and demands to know what actually happened. Smiling smugly, Maria reminds him that only she can intervene in the test, asking him to infer the meaning. With a crazed grin, she reveals that the candidate she's watching killed everyone else in the first level, as the orb focuses on Damien. Meanwhile, Damien sits among the fallen, having reached test level 10, the final stage. He looks over the bodies of female dark elves, feeling that something is strange about the recent tests. He recalls from his past life that these levels should have featured weaker monsters like slimes and skeleton mages, not the much stronger orcs and dark elves. Shrugging it off, he decides the increased difficulty doesn't matter as long as he still gets his rewards. He looks to the final gate, expecting an easy fight against a slime king, mud golem, or blood goblin. Grinning as he anticipates his rank, his thoughts are cut short by a deep, guttural growl. Startled, he jumps to his feet, confused by the unexpected and menacing sound. His eyes widen in disbelief as he looks up, realizing the final boss is not what he expected. A massive Minotaur's phantom roars down at him, its details appearing in a system window. Enraged, Damien curses the test administrators for throwing a monster at him that most explorers would never dare to face. As the beast snorts, Damien resolves to defeat it first and worry about the implications later, gathering red energy in his hands. His hands glowing with power, he taunts the beast to watch closely, promising a quick fight. The giant Minotaur looks down at the tiny human, letting out a surprisingly confused "moo?" Swirling red energy erupts around Damien's legs as he prepares to launch himself forward. In a flash of red, he zips past the Minotaur's head, startling the beast as it cries out in surprise. The Minotaur looks down in confusion, unable to comprehend where its much smaller opponent has gone. Now wearing a skull mask and tribal gear, Damien tells the shocked Minotaur it needs to be marinated. A system window displays the skill Decay Elixir, as Damien reveals a potion of glowing green liquid. Bang! The elixir explodes against the Minotaur's chest, in multiple bursts of corrosive green energy. A notification confirms the Minotaur's defense has decreased as Damien crouches, ready for his next move. The Minotaur stumbles back, clutching its head as the debilitating green energy swirls around it. Now furious, the beast glares down, the green aura still clinging to its body as it prepares to retaliate. Boom! It furiously smashes the ground with a powerful, glowing fist. Damien effortlessly leaps over the shockwave, dodging the beast's clumsy attack. Okay, with a clean slice, he carves a deep gash across the Minotaur's chest, causing it to roar in pain. Grinning, Damien taunts the beast, dismissing it as just beef and calling it a cowhead. The Minotaur bellows in agony from the deep, debilitating wound across its chest. Wreathed in red energy, Damien launches himself into the air, ready to press his advantage against the angered beast. The Minotaur roars, gathering crackling purple energy to counter Damien's aerial assault. As he prepares his next attack, Damien brings the pommel of his sword to his mouth. The Minotaur's eyes burn with glowing red rage as it locks onto its target. The beast slams its fist down, but Damien is too fast, leaving a trail of red energy as he blows past the attack. "Oh," Damien exclaims in surprise, as the Minotaur hurls a barrage of shattered rock at him. Mu the Minotaur lets out a furious, earth-shaking roar, its body glowing with red power. As it continues throwing debris, Damien watches from a distance, unimpressed by the crazy cowhead. He gracefully dodges the volley of rocks, wondering if the beast really thought such slow attacks would work. Despite the life or death stakes, he feels his blood boiling, with a familiar excitement. He recognizes the joy he feels as his fighting spirit awakens in the heat of battle. Smirking, Damien decides to see just how soft his opponent has become, his fist crackling with energy. Bam! He lands a solid punch to the Minotaur's jaw, staggering the beast in surprise. In a fluid motion, Damien dodges a swing and unleashes a flurry of slashes against the beast's torso. He lands and taunts the beast for still holding on as it stumbles back, roaring in pain. Damien smirks, realizing a Minotaur's weakness is right where he needs it to be. He plunges his dagger into the ground, unleashing a powerful explosion of fire and purple energy. A critical hit notification appears as the bleeding Minotaur falls to a near-death state, impaling Damien with floor spikes in its collapse. Standing over the dissipating foe, Damien wonders if it's over, just as a system window confirms its defeat. As the Minotaur's phantom dissolves, a notification confirms test level 10 is complete, and Damien muses that the fight wasn't too difficult. He examines his glowing dagger, realizing he's grown so much that he can't even tell his own level anymore. With his eyes glowing with resolve, he knows he just has to keep moving forward. The test officially ends, confirming Explorer Damien's perfect score of 100 points as he walks toward a brightly lit gate. Damien appears before a desk where the bearded guild official, Hatsan, acknowledges his arrival. Waving casually, Damien admits that the test wasn't exactly easy. Hatsan reflects on Damien's record-breaking performance and killing spree, finally understanding why Maria considered him a unique case. Maria enthusiastically insists they recruit him, overriding Hatsan's hesitation by declaring Damien is exactly what she wants. Hatsan commends Damien's results, but expresses concern over the killings. Damien defends himself, saying they were bad people and it's not a habit. The man jokes that his excuse sounds psycho, leaving Damien to shrug, unsure what else to say. Damien coolly thinks his experience lets him read people, and he's sure Hatsan will accept him. He stands before Hatsan's desk, calmly stating that he is aware of the situation. With a serious expression, Hatsan poses a final question. Will he accept the license and work as a guild mercenary? Damien smiles, extending his hand and saying it would be an honor to work for Hatsan. They shake hands, confirming his new position as a part of the Adventurer Guild. A notification confirms his affiliation has changed, and Damien stretches in relief, glad the ordeal is finally over. He smirks, thinking that as a guild member, he can now access quests and information from across the continent. He notes his new title, Record Time Clear, which grants a permanent boost to his attack and movement speed. Hatsan asks if he likes the rank he's been given, and Damien sits down enthusiastically confirming that he does. Hatsan strokes his beard thoughtfully, noting that gold tier is unprecedented for a new recruit and usually reserved for veterans or those who pass Maria's harsh test. Hatsan explains that Damien's gold tier license allows him to accept high-ranking quests. He presents Damien with several quest options, telling him to choose his first mission carefully. Looking over the difficult gold tier quests, Damien's attention is drawn to a specific one. He holds up a drawing of a sheep and Hassan explains it's a government request regarding missing sheep in Cornel village. Hatsan clarifies that since the village is remote, the government prefers to pay adventurers rather than send their knights. Damien asks if this means he has free reign to solve the problem, and Hatsan confirms it. Damien muses that the quest is likely simple, involving a local thief, and he can easily resolve it. Deciding it sounds like a good first mission, Damien accepts the quest. He enthusiastically accepts the system prompt, excited for his first gold tier mission. As Damien prepares to leave, telling Hatsan he'll be back, the guildmaster wishes him luck. With a confident grin, Damien bids Hatsan farewell and sets off on his journey. Damien arrives in a rocky valley, with system notifications updating his location and map information. He consults his map, realizing the long journey to Cornel village is why the knights weren't assigned. While traveling, he reflects on the challenge of taking a gold tier mission without proper equipment or party members. He worries that his lack of gear will prevent him from finding any mercenaries willing to team up. Shrugging, he decides to go alone, defensively assuring himself it's by choice. With a clever smirk, Damien decides that if he can't find party members, he'll simply create them himself. Surrounded by flames, Damien activates the Control the Dead skill, preparing to summon a monster companion. As the magic settles, he looks at his hands, wondering if the summoning ritual was successful. A voice from a nearby bush asks if he is its owner, leaving Damien confused. A tiny, stitched-up chick appears, cheerfully introducing itself as his summon. Damien crouches in disbelief, surprised that the tiny creature can talk, as it confirms it is his summon. He pokes the chick, calling it useless, which provokes the tiny summon to angrily threaten him. As a notification prompts him to choose a name, Damien groans at the thought of naming the useless creature. Damien asks if it already has a name, but the chick sighs, explaining it was just born. He impulsively names the chick Bundle, leaving the tiny summon to repeat the name in confusion. Damien explains he meant a cute bundle of fur, but the chick overhears him almost say bundle of trash and yells in protest. With the chick perched on his head, Damien reflects that this was the moment his first summon was born. Trekking through the mountains, Damien warns his new companion to keep up, and the chick happily agrees. With his summon on his head, Damien checks his holographic map in Sealess Valley, searching for a side path. He suddenly dashes into the woods, saying he has to go somewhere, as his location updates to Farb Forest. His chick asks where they are, and Damien explains they're in an unpopular, remote field with few merits. He continues, saying the biggest reason players avoid this place is because of its inhabitants. Damien looks up at the trees, revealing the reason. They are filled with large, cocoon-like monsters. A system window identifies the level 25 insects as Farber, noting their tough, viscous strings and banana-like appearance. His body glowing with power, Damien prepares himself for the impending battle. As he steps forward, the cocooned Farb creatures begin to stir, sensing his presence. Damien reveals a glowing decay elixir, a skill-based potion, to counter the monsters. With his chick on his head, he crouches low, getting ready to throw the elixir. Shoot! Damien hurls the glowing potion at one of the hanging cocoons. ZRR, the elixir explodes against a Farber, which shrieks in pain. Damien grins, celebrating the successful strike as his summon cheers him on. The Farber sizzles and melts under the effect of the corrosive green liquid. A notification confirms the first Farber has fallen as its dissolving body drops from the tree. With the monster's defense lowered, Damien compares hunting them to picking fruit off a tree. He easily smacks another attacking Farber aside with a single punch. Dismissing the monster's speed, he draws his weapon for a more serious attack. He unleashes a barrage of swift, purple, energy-infused strikes, piercing another Farber. The wounded Farber spins wildly, shrieking in agony as Damien looks on. With a sinister grin, Damien mockingly thanks the defeated monsters for the meal. A notification confirms Damien has obtained a hard outer shell, which he happily accepts. Damien smirks, revealing he came to this dangerous place specifically for the high-demand, hard outer shell. He schemes about monopolizing the shells, knowing their price and demand will only increase over time, making him a millionaire. With a cry of "Gold hunting!" Damien dashes off to collect more shells, his enthusiastic summon cheering him on. ZRR more Farber cocoons stir in the surrounding trees, sensing a new opportunity for battle. Damn, we hit the jackpot, Damien exclaims, while his summon excitedly asks if the cocoons are all money. He counts the cocoons, estimating hundreds of thousands of gold's worth, as a nearby farber stirs curiously. Damien tauntingly offers to spare the monsters if they'll just hand over their valuable shells. The farbs look on in stunned silence, their eyes glowing with rage at his audacity. Ziz, enraged, the swarm of farbers dive bombs Damien in a furious, coordinated assault. With a determined look, Damien activates his bloody impulse skill, his body flaring with red energy. As his power surges, he realizes he can clearly perceive the movements and attack patterns of every monster. He brandishes a glowing object, daring the arrogant little bugs to face him. ZRRR. The object explodes on impact, engulfing a farber in a brilliant blast of light. System notifications confirm 2 farbs have fallen as they drop defeated from the sky. As a notification announces the farber's defenses are lowered, Damien grins, "Here comes the needle." Damien wonders why the remaining farbs are suddenly looking at him with such shocked and fearful expressions. ZRRR. The enraged monsters ignore their fear and charge forward in a united, desperate attack. He's caught off guard by their simultaneous rush, cursing himself for letting his guard down against the swarm. Thrown off balance, Damien realizes it's too late to dodge the incoming assault. Desperate for something to block with, his gaze falls on his tiny summon, who squeaks, "WH, why are you looking at me?" A charging farb pauses, seemingly confused by the strange turn of events. Squee Damien grabs Bundle, who transforms into a squawking shield of duplicates to block the incoming attack. The farb's assault is harmlessly absorbed into a vortex, and Damien sighs in relief, thinking that was close. With the immediate threat neutralized, he thinks, "Then let's go," and charges back into the fray. Wreathed in red power, he reappears with his sword drawn, shocking the now vulnerable monsters. His eyes glow menacingly as he poises for the final strike, declaring, "Checkmate." He stands panting, his battle-worn sword dripping with the remains of his foes. Surrounded by the glowing corpses of the farbs, he collapses in exhaustion, admitting he could have died. He reflects on being pushed to his limit as his weary, web-covered summon squeaks beside him. Bundle furiously scolds Damien for throwing him, but Damien retorts that he had no other choice to survive. 2 more notifications for hard outer shells pop up, catching Damien's attention. As shells rain down around him, Damien counts them in awe, exclaiming, "It's like a rug made of money." Damien gets his summon's attention, and Bundle turns to listen, asking what he wants. He strikes a deal with Bundle, 1 seed for every shell collected, leaving the chick overjoyed. Squeak Bundle eagerly zips around the battlefield, collecting the shells far faster than Damien ever could. He reflects on the shell's high value, concluding that, despite the danger, the reward is definitely worth the risk. Damien realizes the world is nearly identical to the game he remembers, giving him an incredible advantage. Damien assesses a surviving farber, noting their levels are well matched, while the confused monster wonders what he's talking about. He decides to change plans, opting to farm shells for 2 days before continuing his journey to Cornel Village. With his dagger in his teeth, Damien declares it's time to sweep up some money, and his summon agrees enthusiastically. From a distant cliff, a group of men observe several explosions in the forest below, puzzled by the disturbance. A silver-haired man in armor looks toward the noise with a concerned expression, wondering about the sound. The silver-haired man tells his leader, Liang Chaoming, that he heard a noise. The silver-haired man insists he heard something, but Liang Chaoming coldly dismisses his concern, saying whoever it is will die anyway. Liang Chaoming curtly orders him to rejoin the group, and the younger man reluctantly complies. Liang Chaoming rallies his men, urging them to hurry and meet their quota for the day. As they trek through the forest, the silver-haired man questions their goal, but Liang Chaoming sternly tells him to stop complaining. Liang Chaoming explains that despite the forest's danger, the valuable shells are their startup's primary source of profit. One of Liang Chaoming's men struggles against a farber, yelling that he can't cut its string, while another suggests that they just log out from exhaustion. A scout points in shock, exclaiming that all the farbs are dead, but Liang Chaoming angrily dismisses his claim as nonsense. Scolding his man for going blind, Liang Chaoming stops dead in his tracks as he sees the forest floor littered with farber corpses. Hayek, holding his crossbow, Liang Chaoming furiously demands to know which bastard got to their hunting ground first. He reflects that this is Zheng San's exclusive territory, wondering how someone got past them when they'd killed all other users to monopolize it. Grabbing a subordinate, Liang Chaoming furiously orders him to find the person who invaded their territory, and the man nervously agrees. As the group searches, Damien, wearing a boar mask, calmly picks up a glowing shell, completely unaware of their presence. Stunned into silence, Liang Xiaoming stares at the bizarre boar-masked figure. While Damien picks up more shells with Bundle on his shoulder, Liang Xiaoming identifies the mysterious figure by his boar head mask. Liang Xiaoming scoffs at Damien's primitive gear, wondering how an NPC-looking guy got there, while Damien tells Bundle to keep looking for shells. Liang Xiaoming aggressively confronts the boar bastard, threatening to kill him. But Damien simply asks if there's a problem. One of Liang Xiaoming's men shouts at Damien, demanding he hand over everything he's gathered before they disembowel him. Damien wonders what they're saying, unable to understand their dialect, which he guesses might be from North Korea or China. Surrounded, Liang Xiaoming arrogantly asks if Damien knows who he is, to which Damien casually replies, "Who are you?" Liang Xiaoming proudly announces his name, but Damien simply repeats it, genuinely asking who that is. Damien's eyes widen as a flicker of recognition hits him. Pointing accusingly, Damien identifies him as the, quote, evil factory leader from the forums, shocking Liang Xiaoming. Damien recalls forum posts about the violent Zhengsan farming factory killing other users, disgusted to have run into such human garbage. Liang Xiaoming and his men laugh menacingly, smugly telling Damien that he figured it out too late. The armed men surround Damien, declaring his life is over. One of the men taunts "game over," asking if Damien understands his hopeless situation as the group closes in. With an exasperated sigh, Damien looks up at his attackers with utter boredom and asks, "What the hell?" Damien mockingly asks if they're paying rent to be here, leaving Liang Xiaoming and his followers completely bewildered. As his eyes glow ominously, Damien warns the group to play nicer before he gets violent, threatening to kill them all. Enraged, Liang Xiaoming orders his men to kill him, and they all charge forward with weapons drawn. As a crossbow bolt flies toward his face, Damien curses in annoyance. Damien effortlessly catches the bolt inches from his eye, shocking Liang Xiaoming as he remarks how obvious the attack was. He snaps the bolt and grabs Liang Xiaoming's arm, making him cry out in pain as the men behind him watch in shock. With a confident smirk, Damien declares that while they're good at ganging up on people, he's just as confident in a one-on-one fight. He holds Liang Xiaoming in a chokehold, who gasps for air as his men watch helplessly. The enraged group members charge forward, demanding Damien let their leader go. Using Liang Xiaoming as a human shield, Damien lets him take the incoming arrows from his own men. Damien contemptuously kicks the wounded Liang Xiaoming aside and leaps into the fray. In a blur of motion, Damien carves through the attackers, their strikes failing to land as he tears them apart. Two men freeze in terror as Damien rushes directly toward them, their fate sealed. One of the men raises his sword and screams, "You boar bastard!" The sword clangs uselessly against Damien's arm, blocked by his steel wristguard defense. The attacker's face fills with horror as Damien's fist prepares to strike him down. As Damien continues his rampage, the wounded Liang Xiaoming curses him from a distance. Hiding in the grass, Liang Xiaoming takes aim with his crossbow, vowing to kill the son of a bitch. A glint in his eye reveals Damien has already sensed the hidden threat. Hoke. Damien launches himself into the air, delivering a devastating punch to another surprised enemy. The camera pans down to show Liang Xiaoming lying defeated on the ground, riddled with arrows. Cracking his knuckles over the fallen men, Damien coldly tells them not to expect to leave alive. The scene shifts to the Zhengsan startup farming factory, where a man is heard yelling for the boss. A long-haired boss, annoyed by the shouting, curses as his subordinate rushes toward him in a panic. The boss flicks his cigarette, hitting his subordinate squarely in the forehead. Threatening to kill him if it isn't urgent, the boss demands to know why he's there. The subordinate stammers that there's a big problem. The subordinate reports that Team 1 just got wiped out, leaving his boss completely stunned. The enraged boss grabs his subordinate by the collar, demanding he repeat what he said, and the terrified man confirms Team 1's defeat. Slam! The furious boss smashes his fist on the table, unable to believe how his large team was possibly defeated. He smashes his keyboard, angrily asking if the Japanese were behind it, while his subordinate on the floor insists they weren't, and the boss demands to know who was. Grabbing his subordinate by the collar, the boss furiously demands an answer as the man stammers in fear. The subordinate recalls the Korean user Jinsung 123 who deposited 3 million gold, and the boss asks what about him. Whack. Before he can finish, the boss brutally strikes him across the face with a rolled-up scroll. Standing menacingly over his fallen subordinate, the boss listens as the man trembles, insisting that what he said is true. The boss asks incredulously if Jin-sung was responsible for both the huge gold deposit and wiping out Team 1, and his subordinate meekly confirms it. With a cold, threatening glare, the boss orders his subordinate to explain everything that happened without leaving out a single detail. Back in the forest, a notification announces Damien has reached level 30 as he stands confidently in his new tribal gear. Looking over the dozens of bodies littering the ground, Damien reflects that leveling up was a given after killing about 50 players. As notifications for rare loot like basic steel appear, he smirks, pleased with the items he's acquired. He surveys the battlefield, noting that this much loot from one fight is insane and assuming much of it was stolen from other players. Damien grins with delight as he views his massive inventory, now filled with thousands of materials and over 190,000 gold. He imagines cashing out for millions, realizing he won't have to worry about sending money home for a while. After deciding to convert the goods into cash, he begins sorting through the rare items in his inventory window. He pulls out a glowing book. Bundle asks what it is, and Damien replies that he's going to make some equipment. Apocalypse Invocation, the Book of the Black Covenant, and from its menu of powers, Damien selects item dissection. As he dissects a sword, bow, and armor, he decides he needs higher grade ingredients than what he can get from just selling the items. He searches through his loot, looking for a particular item he spotted earlier. He stops, intrigued by a title he's never seen before. He's shocked to see he's earned the Lonely Hyena title for looting over 9,999 items, granting him incredible drop rate bonuses. He realizes he never got this title in his past life because he was too busy with large-scale wars to pick up loot. Damien feels a bit embarrassed about picking up so many items, but Bundle cheekily reminds him he's been doing it all along, earning a shut up from his owner. Considering the implications of his new title, Damien glances at his summon thoughtfully. A wicked, calculating grin spreads across his face. Standing over the slain players, he calculates that the Zhangsan farming factory must have over 100 members and farm thousands of items a week. He smiles deviously, realizing the astronomical amount of money he could earn by targeting them. With a new purpose, he walks deeper into the forest. Gazing over a vast valley, he resolves to deal with the Zhangsan startup, knowing they're bound to come after him anyway. With a determined smirk, he decides to get to work on them first. Elsewhere, Chang Tingbao, leader of Zhangsan's night team, pants in exhaustion after 35 hours of play as his men complain about fruitlessly chasing the Korean. Chang Tingbao silences a complainer, reminding him their only mission is to eliminate the Korean, while another man threatens the complainer to stay quiet. When a man suggests using expensive return spells, Chang Tingbao scolds him for being an idiot and asking stupid questions. He suddenly stops, thinking something is weird after hearing an unfamiliar voice. Wondering why it's suddenly so quiet, he freezes in place, sensing danger. He draws his weapons, yelling for the treacherous bastard to show themselves, shocked that he didn't hear a thing. A mysterious voice warns him not to draw his sword, leaving him stunned and afraid. The terrified Chang Tingbao finds Damien sitting casually before him, taunting him to come forward. Leaping forward with a fist cocked, Damien tells the frozen man to take a nap. Ugh. A man lies unconscious on the forest floor. Chang Tingbao wakes up, bound and gagged, surrounded by strange little chicks, and struggles in confusion. As he questions the odd chicks, one peeps to another that the prisoner is awake. Hearing a familiar voice, Chang Tingbao realizes who has captured him. He panics, recognizing the Korean's voice as Damien complains to Bundle about his bad acting nearly giving them away. As Chang Tingbao frantically tries to escape, Damien approaches, casually noting that the patient is awake. Damien orders Bundle to pull up the prisoner's sleeves, and the chick enthusiastically complies. Damien's fingers transform into sharp, purple glowing claws as he menacingly tells the terrified Chang Tingbao not to be scared. Raising his glowing claws, Damien warns his captive that this is going to sting a little. URRRB. Chang Tingbao convulses in agony as purple energy courses through his body. As notifications confirm he's been poisoned, Damien watches impassively and remarks that it doesn't hurt that bad. With his purple claws glowing, Damien grins menacingly and declares, "This is just the beginning." Gagged and bound, Damien lies on the ground, exhausted, with his chicks nearby, sighing that he's tired. After eliminating the Zhengsan day and night teams over 48 hours, a weary Damien decides to check his status window, noting that summoning the chicks was exhausting. Damien reflects on his summoning skill, realizing the stats were low because there was no limit, unlike typical summons that are restricted by time or mana. He tells his summons that they can go home now that the work is done, but the chicks protest, insisting it's more fun here than in the Soul Realm. He muses that while the chicks' specs are garbage, he can summon an infinite number of them, making them perfect for overwhelming enemies like the Zhengsan group. As Damien sits in the forest, Bundle asks if the guys who are after him are gone, and he confirms they are. Damien fondly recalls slaughtering his enemies, telling a bewildered Bundle that killing and looting them was fun because their reactions were killer. He plans his next move, deciding it's better to use necromancy to avoid the death penalty, and opens his status window. Activating Apocalypse Invocation, the Book of the Black Covenant, Damien notes that while items crafted with it are expensive, their stats and efficiency are much higher. He excitedly flips through the glowing book, searching for a specific formula, and triumphantly declares he's found it. Damien calls out to Bundle and the chicks, who are playing nearby, and his summon immediately asks what he needs. With a devious grin, Damien holds up a glowing page from the book, his next plan already in motion. The scene shifts to a moonlit view of the Shanghai Pudong skyline at night. A man in a sharp suit walks through an office, thinking about the incident that happened in the game, AC. The man, identified as Zhang Wei, the chairman of Kirin's society, considers the news from the game to be concerning. Lighting a cigarette, Zhang Wei thinks about how Zhangsan's startup is a money laundering front he left to one of his brothers. He reflects that while the financial loss is small, the fact that one person wiped out the entire group is deeply unsettling. Zhang Wei takes a drag from his cigarette as he listens intently to a phone call. Surrounded by his men, Zhang Wei issues an order over the phone, and the person on the other end acknowledges it. Back in the game, a player pants heavily as he runs desperately through a dark forest. The blue-haired man flees in terror, screaming that he's being chased by a monster. As a hooded figure unleashes red energy, the man panics, realizing dozens of his teammates were killed by just one user, and he must escape. He looks up in absolute horror as a massive sphere of red energy descends upon him. Caught in a vortex of crackling power, the man screams in shock as he's engulfed. Eekik. The man is violently thrown to the ground by the force of the magical blast. With his legs severely injured, the man cries out in agony as the hooded figure notes with surprise that he dodged the attack. A long-haired, hooded mage holding a glowing red staff smiles, remarking that the man's survival is pretty impressive. The mage taunts the fallen captain, who desperately warns him to stay back. The mage mocks the man's fear, reminding him this is what he wanted, as the impressive stats of his Wing of Tetra staff are displayed. Crack! The mage thrusts his staff forward, and as the captain screams, the mage cruelly admits he enjoys the look of terror on his face. Surrounded by crackling red lightning, the powerful mage declares that to defeat him, his enemies will need to bring the entire Blood Alliance. The captain screams as he is completely overwhelmed and consumed by a blast of red energy. Elsewhere, Damien stops, sensing something and wondering if someone is talking about him behind his back. Standing in a new clearing, Damien scratches an itch on his back as Bundle asks if he's digging for gold. As notifications announce his arrival at Cornell Village and update his map, Damien takes in the view, commenting on the fresh air. Entering the village, Damien tells Bundle it's their new workplace and instructs him to hide, sensing a tense atmosphere among the locals. Looking up at a house on a steep hill, Damien complains about the climb, but reflects that he made it in time for his quest despite the Zhengsan distraction. Thump, thump. Damien knocks on the door of the house, calling out to see if anyone is inside. An elderly man peeks out and asks who it is. Damien introduces himself as being from the Adventurer Guild about a request. The village chief, Albert, bursts out the door with overwhelming relief, overjoyed that help has finally arrived. Albert immediately offers Damien a drink, his caution vanishing so quickly that Damien realizes the village's problem must be extremely serious. The chief explains that the village's sheep are disappearing, putting everyone on edge and creating the tense atmosphere. Albert tells Damien that 20 sheep have been vanishing every week for the past month. When asked who herds the sheep, Albert explains it's an orphan named Joseph, whom he dismisses as a troublemaker. Albert says Joseph claimed wolves were responsible, which would make sense given how many sheep are missing. However, due to Joseph's history of crying wolf as a prank, the villagers didn't believe him and had him imprisoned, assuming he was the thief. Desperate, Albert grabs Damien's arm and begs for help, revealing that the sheep are still vanishing even with Joseph jailed, and the village is facing starvation. Damien agrees to help and asks to meet the pal, leaving the tearful and confused chief to wonder what he means. A wicked, knowing smile spreads across Damien's face. He's clearly referring to the imprisoned boy, Joseph. Now wearing a tribal outfit with a skull helmet, Damien stands in a desolate wasteland as Bundle asks where they are, and he wonders if he took a wrong turn. Spotting two men guarding a small house, Damien deduces it must be the place where Joseph is being held. Inside the house, Joseph pleads his innocence while a guard angrily tells him to be quiet per Chief Albert's orders. Damien thoughtfully strokes his chin, surmising that the villagers have wrongly concluded Joseph is the culprit. With a determined look, he thinks that, while he's only focused on the reward, this situation is more complex than he expected. Recalling that the orphan Joseph herds sheep to survive after his guardian died, Damien finds his imprisonment to be a surprisingly light punishment under the circumstances. As he approaches the guards, Damien thinks the village is rather rational and resolves to meet the prisoner. The guard looks up, startled and confused, as Damien casually greets him with a hello. Damien gives a friendly wave, explaining he just spoke with Albert and asks how Joseph is doing. The guard replies he's the same as always. As Joseph frantically pounds on the door from inside, demanding to be let out, the guard sighs in exasperation. The guards complain to each other about Joseph's endless screaming, finding it utterly exhausting. Realizing he is short on time, Damien clasps his hands and politely asks the guards to step aside so he can meet with Joseph. Pout! Damien punches a guard in the face and calls out to Joseph, warning him to get away from the door. With a fierce grin, Damien unleashes a powerful punch as the second guard shouts in alarm. Joseph recoils in shock as the door is blown open with a cloud of dust. Standing in the ruined doorway, Damien asks if he's Joseph, and Bundle confirms that it seems to be him. As the terrified Joseph scrambles backward, asking who he is, Damien approaches, saying he has a few questions. Damien smiles, realizing he forgot to properly introduce himself. He cheerfully announces he is Damien, a mercenary from the Adventurer Guild, while Bundle pops up to introduce himself too. Dumbfounded by the talking chick in the broken door, Joseph stares blankly as Damien tells him not to worry about it. Now sitting calmly with Joseph, Damien gets straight to the point, asking about the wolves hunting the sheep, which Joseph confirms is true. Joseph describes seeing a monstrous wolf, larger than a human, hunting a bear, insisting it's true despite how unbelievable it sounds. The guard angrily dismisses Joseph's story as nonsense, but Joseph passionately insists he's telling the truth. Damien calmly crosses his arms, considering that such monsters aren't impossible here, and asks Joseph where he saw the wolf. Joseph points toward the mountains, explaining he saw a pack of them at the Caliph mountain ranges and gives directions to find them. With a glint in his eye, Damien acknowledges the information, his plan set. Now dashing through the forest, Damien calculates he'll reach Caliph Peak in no time. With flames trailing his feet, Damien happily remarks on the power of good items, and Bundle agrees that money is the best. A notification details his Flame Lizard bracelet, which grants defensive stats and a flame attack ability. Another window displays the stats for his Nijawalu's leather pants, offering various resistances and a powerful regeneration skill. His Golden Rabbit sandals are shown to provide a massive 10,000% speed boost, making him reflect that this gear is priceless. Clenching his fist, Damien recalls the thousands of gold and rare ingredients used to craft his gear, knowing it will be crucial. He continues his sprint, aware that he's heading into a high-level zone with monsters over level 30. A confident smile spreads across his face, ready for the challenge ahead. As notifications confirm his arrival at Caliph Mountain Range's peak and update his map, Damien runs along a towering ridge, surveying the vast, rocky landscape. Damien notes it's a perfect place for a wolf den, while Bundle marvels at its size. Damien observes the terrain's tactical challenges, noting the numerous blind spots and steep cliffs. Peering down at a small cave entrance, he finds it too small for a giant wolf, but decides to trust Joseph's eyewitness account. Reaching out with a glowing hand, Damien calls for whatever is hiding to reveal itself. Damien unleashes a massive, swirling torrent of golden flame into the canyon below. The scene shifts to a red-headed woman with a braided ponytail and a faint, knowing smile. The woman, party leader Seo Hien, confidently leads her party forward, telling them they'll be there soon. A party member expresses doubt, asking Seo Hien if she's sure no one is here, as he's never heard of a successful raid on this place. A blonde man with a crossbow, user God from Afar, smirks with confidence. God from Afar's expression turns serious as he privately questions if their party can truly defeat the Great Wolf King. A hooded mage, user Selling Heels, reassures God from Afar it's their job to win, but then nervously admits he's heard the wolf is incredibly strong. The anxious mage, Selling Heels, looks startled after being told not to worry. God from Afar strikes a cool pose, boasting about his extensive experience and powerful stats. Leaning in, God from Afar reassures Selling Heels that the monster has obvious patterns and tells him to focus on healing, while another party member urges them to hurry. A knight in golden armor, user Gel Punisher, remarks that other parties are likely attempting the same quest, as failure doesn't stop people from trying. The blonde user, God from Afar, thinks irritably that the other person is incredibly impatient. The knight in golden armor, Gel Punisher, asks what he said, and God from Afar quickly claims he was just talking to himself. As Gel Punisher warns him to watch his mouth, God from Afar smirks and dismissively agrees, vowing to deal with him later. The red-headed party leader, Seo Hyun, tells them to fight later, but she is suddenly cut off by a startling realization. The entire party looks on in shock as a massive explosion erupts in the distance. Recognizing the sound, the hooded mage, Selling Heels, realizes with wide eyes that a fight is happening nearby. The scene shifts as Bumble peeps in terror, while a large, white-furred claw swipes down at him. A pack of menacing white wolves with red facial markings surrounds a huddle of terrified chicks. Kayau. Damien stands defiant and ready for battle, completely encircled by the snarling wolf pack. With a confident grin, Damien notes the large number of wolves but says he isn't complaining. More wolves pour out from small cracks in the cliffside, leaving Damien surprised by their sheer numbers emerging from such tiny openings. Realizing the wolves must live within the boulders, he deduces that the entire cliff must be a giant wolf nest. He's shocked to realize there are even more wolves below, as the pack growls at him. Damien taunts the approaching pack, claiming he was just investigating, as a window details the stats and tactics of the level 30 Caliph Wolf. Kyo, the wolves leap forward to attack, and Damien braces for the fight. With a smirk, Damien dismisses them as just wolves, holding up a potion while his hands ignite with golden flames. Whimper, he hurls the potion which explodes in a brilliant flash of light, engulfing one of the wolves. Pleased with the results, Damien watches as notifications confirm the wolf's defense and HP are now steadily decreasing. He observes that the synergy between his Flame Lizard bracelet and the Decay Elixir is working perfectly, continuously chipping away at the opponent's health. Confident in his level 34 status and powerful equipment, Damien concludes he can handle this fight on his own. An equipment window displays his current loadout, featuring his sashimi knife, wild boar helmet, and golden rabbit sandals. Damien smirks, casually asking the remaining wolves if they're still there. With a serious expression, Damien commands his soldiers to get ready to fire. KRR? The wolves look at each other, confused by his declaration. The scene pulls back, revealing Damien is standing before a giant chicken foot, surrounded by a horde of smaller chicks. Bundle, now giant-sized with a patched-up face, proudly announces his arrival as his army of chicks peeps in unison. Yap. The army of chicks stands ready, completely surrounding Damien and facing down the wolf pack. Konyer. An alpha wolf looks on, confused, and commands its own soldiers to prepare their weapons. Peep, the army of chicks takes aim, each one holding a small bamboo blowgun. Damien grins, remarking that his expensive Bon Clay's poison-darted rooster was worth it, as a window details its rare rank ability to turn the chick's attacks into level 10 poison darts. He reflects that turning all his chick's attacks into poison darts makes the expensive item perfect for dealing with large groups of enemies. Damien admits he's too lazy to fight them himself, and a small chick below shouts in agreement. Pointing at the enemy, Damien declares that he can't leave even a single wolf alive. Bang! He gives a confident finger gun gesture. Peep! The chicks unleash a massive volley of poison darts toward the attacking wolves. Whimper! The wolves cry out in pain as they are struck, and notifications confirm the entire pack has been poisoned. A system notification declares his victory as the defeated Caliph wolves dissolve into light. Wearing a new horned helmet, Damien smirks, impressed that he killed all the wolves without lifting a finger. He plans to use his Bloody Impulse skill, which boosts attack and speed by 200%, to make up for the chicks' low stats as they glow with red power. He reflects that while his skills were weak at first, They've become quite useful now that they're at a higher level. A powered-up chick proudly reports it has gathered all the loot, and as Damien praises it, notifications confirm he's obtained various wolf parts. Damien muses that there must be an alpha wolf nearby, recalling Joseph's story of a huge one, while Bundle asks what an alpha is. Reviewing his quest progress, Damien sees he still needs to kill 180 more wolves and the Great Caliph Wolf, realizing the task won't be easy. Suddenly, a notification announces that Chick 34 has died, and Damien looks on in disbelief. He turns in shock to see the ground littered with the bodies of his fallen chicks. Muting, speak of the devil, he watches as a massive, clawed white paw slams down in front of him. Kyo. A monstrously huge wolf with red markings roars as a notification announces the arrival of the Great Wolf King. The Great Wolf King summons its pack, and as dozens of red-eyed wolves emerge, a notification warns Damien to prepare for an ambush. Damien stares in shock at the horde of wolves, and a panicked Bundle asks what they should do. As a window details the stats of the level 45 elite Great Wolf King, Damien activates his Bloody Impulse skill, ready to give the fight a try. With a determined look, Damien tells Bundle he'll take the big one, while Bundle handles its minions, and the chick readily agrees. Facing his army of chicks, Damien commands his soldiers to prepare. Peep the chicks, surrounded by a red aura, get into position with their blowguns ready. Peep Bundle, holding a flag, gives the order to fire, and a volley of purple darts fills the air. Kyao! With his chick army handling the minions, Damien confidently focuses on the large wolf before him. Surrounded by a pulsing red aura, Damien prepares to unleash his own attack. He fires a massive concentrated beam of golden flame from his hands. The fiery beam incinerates the smaller wolves as Damien leaps directly toward the Great Wolf King. The Great Wolf King snarls, mockingly asking Damien where he's looking. Leaping through the air, Damien declares that the wolf is up against him. As notifications confirm 100% increases to his casting, mana, and stamina recovery speeds, Damien feels empowered and ready for anything. KRRRR, a system warning, declares the Great Wolf King has identified Damien as its most threatening enemy and is preparing an attack. Kaya! The giant wolf swipes with a massive glowing claw, forcing Damien to mutter, "Yikes!" Damien acrobatically leaps high above the Great Wolf King, narrowly dodging its devastating attack. Holding two glowing skull-marked potions, Damien decides his first move is to melt the wolf's fur. Kyo! He hurls the potions, which explode on the wolf as notifications confirm its defense has been decayed, decreased, and burned. Damien finds it strange that the elite-type monster hasn't used any skills or commanded its pack yet. As spectral wolves swirl, he notes that despite all his attacks, the Great Wolf King has yet to use a single skill. Unconcerned, he grips his dagger, confident he's already dealt enough damage to win before the boss can retaliate. Pointing his blade forward, Damien resolves to end the fight as quickly as possible. Kyao! Damien rushes in, slashing at the burning and weakened Great Wolf King. He analyzes the wolf's pattern, concluding he needs to finish this quickly regardless of its trait. He declares his intent to chop the wolf up as fast as he can. With a fierce grin, Damien charges forward to deliver a decisive blow. Keek, as the smaller wolves fall to the poison darts, Damien confirms he no longer needs to worry about what's below. With a confident smirk, Damien turns his full attention to the Great Wolf King, asking if it's his turn now. KRRR. He unleashes a powerful purple slash, meeting the lunging wolf head-on. The red-headed party leader, Seo Hyun, stares in disbelief, wondering what she's seeing. Woof, woof, peep. The sounds of battle ring out as purple energy clashes violently. The hooded mage, Selling Heels, points an alarm, suspecting monsters are fighting each other and shouting that something is out there. As a blast of purple light cuts through the mist, he yells that something is moving in the fog. The blonde man, God from afar, clenches his fist in frustration, angrily wondering if someone beat them to the boss. Surveying the scene, Seo Hyun doubts it's another user, while the mage speculates it's just monsters fighting over territory. Seo Hyun dismisses the delay, telling her healer to get buffs ready as she orders everyone to prepare for battle. As the fog begins to clear, the hooded mage points at a dissolving wolf corpse. God from afar grits his teeth, questioning how any of this makes sense. The fog lifts to reveal the shocking sight of Damien battling the gigantic Great Wolf King. The entire party is stunned, with God from afar exclaiming that he's fighting the boss alone, while the mage simply curses in disbelief. The red-headed party leader gasps, realizing their kill is about to be stolen. Refusing to be left out, user God from Afar breaks into a sprint to join the fight. Kiel the Great Wolf King roars in agony, its fur smoldering, as Damien notes that it just won't die. Damien reflects on his strategy, having successfully used his elixirs and skill synergy to weaken the boss. KRRR, the Great Wolf King's health bar, shows it still has half its life left as it roars, engulfed in a furious red aura. Dodging another lunge, Damien remarks, "Yikes." He realizes it's getting harder to dodge, and decides he must switch to a ranged weapon. Kaya, the wolf relentlessly attacks with glowing purple eyes as Damien skillfully evades each strike. Damien leaps back, creating distance from the furious beast. Confident in fighting from afar, he taunts the wolf, asking if that's all it has. KRRR, the Great Wolf King, glares. 3 purple orbs manifesting on its forehead as it asks what he's looking at. Awoo! The Great Wolf King unleashes a powerful howl, sending out a shockwave of red energy. Damien reels back in shock, asking, "What?" as he realizes the direness of his situation. Kiao! The wolf pack overwhelms him, and he knows it's too late as their fangs sink in. He realizes with horror that the boss's elite trait was summoning its pack, as notifications confirm he is now bleeding. Overwhelmed and pinned, he wonders if this is the end as warnings flash for muscle rupture and critical HP loss. Bleeding from the mouth, Damien grits his teeth, realizing he's going to die at this rate. KRR? The Great Wolf King watches impassively as its minions tear Damien apart. KRRR, Damien's foot slams down, unleashing a pulse of dark, shadowy energy. A window details his passive zombification skill, which transforms him into an undead for 600 seconds upon reaching 0 HP, and he transforms into a white-haired, gray-skinned figure with glowing red tattoos. Kiao, the Great Wolf King, roars as system notifications begin to count down the 600 seconds of Damien's new form. Now a zombie, Damien glares with glowing red eyes, telling the wolf to shut up and vowing to kill it for the pain it's causing him. The transformed Damien faces the Great Wolf King, remarking that it's been a while since he's felt pain like this. Kiag. A smaller, shadowy wolf lunges, attempting to bite the transformed Damien. KRR. The wolf bites down on his arm, but Damien seems completely unfazed, simply muttering about the bastards. KRR. With contempt, the transformed Damien effortlessly lifts the biting wolf, asking if it wants to die. Whimper. He violently slams the wolf into the ground, creating a powerful shockwave. Whimper. The wolf dissolves in a cloud of green poison as notifications confirm it has been defeated. A window explains his new plague aura, which poisons and bleeds nearby enemies, as he challenges the Great Wolf King to attack. Cracking his knuckles, the undead Damien threatens to go on the offensive if the wolf won't. Watching from a distance, God from Afar curses the combatants as stupid bastards. The blonde man expresses his frustration and reluctance to leave empty-handed, questioning if they should give up. With renewed determination, God from Afar clenches his fist, refusing to accept leaving with nothing. Kaya. He watches in disbelief as the transformed Damien smashes the Great Wolf King into a rock face. KKRR. The transformed Damien ruthlessly stomps on the Great Wolf King's head. Phew. He breathes a sigh of relief as notifications confirm the Great Wolf King's defeat and his level up to 36. Loot notifications flood in, showing he has obtained high-value materials and a token of heresy, and confirming the quest is complete. Still in his undead form, Damien examines the glowing essence of wilderness, satisfied that the fight was worth it. Sitting amidst the spirits of his fallen chicks, he reflects that they've finally become useful. As he decides to depart, his glowing red eyes snap wide with alarm. Ugh. He grunts in pain as an arrow suddenly strikes his bicep. Examining the projectile, he realizes it was a catapult arrow aimed at his head, fired by a powerful, hidden user. He glares into the distance, telling his unseen assailant to come out while he's still being nice. A figure lands nearby, and God from Afar compliments Damien's reflexes. The blonde man aims his arm-mounted crossbow, warning Damien not to move if he wants to live. With a cocky smirk, the transformed Damien asks the newcomer who the hell he is. The two warriors face off in the barren, rocky landscape. Damien analyzes his opponent, recognizing his weapon from the Zhengsan group and identifying him as a ranger class. He assesses the weapon as a mobile type rather than a destructive one, thinking the fight might not be too hard. The blonde man scowls, demanding Damien listen to what he says. Damien gives a sarcastic thumbs up, admitting he stands corrected as he realizes the ranger is surprisingly fast and at least level 30. Damien further notes that the man's equipment is superior to the Zhengsan group's, a point God from Afar smugly confirms. A notification announces his zombification is ending, and Damien realizes the ranger was waiting for his trump card to expire. Now in his human form, Damien listens as the blonde man comments on how impressive it was for a close-range fighter to kill a boss. With a greedy sneer, God from Afar demands Damien hand over all his loot and equipment if he wants to live. The blonde man is stunned into silence when Damien flatly rejects his demand. Damien casually cleans his ear, asking if the man thinks he's stupid enough to give up the rewards he fought for. The blonde man coldly orders him to die, but Damien just taunts him, pretending he can't hear. Enraged, God from Afar yells, "Die, you bastard," and unleashes a volley of glowing bolts from his crossbows. Damien grins, happy that his provocation worked, and activates Bloody Impulse, increasing his attack and speed by 200%. He quickly takes a healing potion while activating 2 more skills, Deep Green Blessing and Flame Banquet. Determined to press his advantage, Damien decides to stack his buffs and strike while his opponent is still shocked. With a confident grin, Damien analyzes his opponent's simple attack pattern and slow reload speed, dismissing him as a loser. Enraged, God from Afar shouts, "You little rat," as Damien deftly dodges an explosive volley of bolts. Damien continues his high-speed sprint, easily weaving between the crossbow's fiery projectiles. Gritting his teeth, a sweating God from Afar realizes there's another problem on top of Damien's speed. He watches in horror as he realizes Damien, with a predatory smirk and glowing eyes, has been looking his way the entire time. Panicked, God from Afar knows he's going to lose at this rate and frantically tries to think of a counter. Suddenly appearing before him, Damien holds a glowing potion and calmly states he can see all of his attacks. Kiag Damien hurls his decay elixir, which explodes directly on God from Afar in a burst of corrosive energy. Coughing on the ground, God from Afar notes that the initial damage seems less than he expected. "Hike?" He cries out in shock as notifications confirm his armor is being corroded and its durability is decreasing. As his armor dissolves into green smoke, God from Afar panics and curses, just as Damien lunges in for a kick. Stunned that a close-range fighter has damage over time and debuff skills, God from Afar vows to attack him again. Damien prepares another glowing potion, warning his foe that he'll die if he can't block the next attack. Kuag. God from Afar screams as he's engulfed by the explosion from the second potion. As notifications confirm his armor and bowgun are destroyed, the fallen God from Afar can only curse in disbelief. Standing over his downed opponent, Damien asks with cold finality if he's ready to die. His hand sizzling from the corrosive liquid, God from Afar snarls, "You piece of shit." With grim determination, the injured God from Afar pulls a large, heavy arbalest from his back. Damien recognizes the weapon as a heavy-hunting arbalest, noting its focus on destructive power. Damien mockingly asks if a speed-focused ranger like God from Afar can even handle such a powerful weapon. Infuriated, God from Afar aims his new weapon, vowing to make Damien pay for his arrogance. A swirling white vapor begins to envelop God from Afar's leg. A massive bolt of fire just misses Damien's head, forcing him to admit it was a close call. The bolt detonates in a huge explosion behind him, and Damien stares back, shocked by its power. As Damien realizes this weapon is undetectable, a smirking God from Afar taunts him, asking where he's looking. "Hub." Damien grunts as he's forced to dive to the ground to evade another explosive, unseen projectile. God from Afar laughs maniacally from a cloud of smoke, mocking Damien for running. Partially invisible, God from Afar taunts Damien, asking if it's weird that he can't be seen. Damien quickly deduces his opponent isn't using a potion or item, but a rare, exclusive skill. Damien tells God from Afar he should have stabbed him earlier, to which the ranger replies that Damien will be dead before he gets another chance. God from Afar activates his Dark Hunter skill, Invisible Bowshot, taunting Damien to try and survive the attack. Shit. Damien curses as he's forced to run while multiple invisible bolts create a field of explosions around him. Damien realizes the hunter's skills let him fire the arbalest much faster while invisible, creating a pain-in-the-ass combination. With grim determination, Damien clenches his fist, deciding he must end this fight quickly. As God from afar taunts him, Damien activates the skill on his golden rabbit sandal, engulfing himself in fiery energy. He unleashes the golden flash of light, and a massive pillar of light erupts from the ground, catching God from afar by surprise. Before God from afar can react, Damien appears instantly behind him and smashes him in the side of the head. The hunter cries out as the powerful blow sends him stumbling away. Clutching his ringing ear, God from afar furiously calls Damien a psychopath. Damien calmly offers his opponent one last chance to apologize. Enraged, God from afar begins to threaten Damien, unable to believe his audacity. His threat is cut short as his eyes widen in sudden, agonizing shock. Kihuek. God from afar clutches his chest in pain while Damien, holding a needle, remarks on the good effects of his attack. As his foe screams in agony, Damien reveals a voodoo doll pierced through the chest and wonders where to stick the next needle. Surrounded by a sinister purple aura, Damien holds up the voodoo doll and cruelly informs the hunter, "It's your body." Far from the battle, Seo-yeon and her party look on at the chaotic scene unfolding in the Rocky Valley. The red-headed party leader asks what's happening, while the mage says he's not sure, only that it's gone quiet. A sudden scream cuts through the silence, startling the entire party. God from afar's HP bar appears, rapidly draining as a shocked Seo-yeon shouts about his plummeting health. As his HP bar empties, the party panics, with the mage yelling that God from afar is going to die. Seo-yeon insists on going to help, but her knight companion tries to stop her, asking if she'll just stand by and watch God from afar die. The knight angrily questions her decision, insisting that God from afar is too strong to be defeated so easily by another user. A series of notifications warns the knight of a hostile user with an unmeasurable propensity, identifying Damien as a dangerous opponent. Dismissing the knight's caution as reckless, Seo-yeon points out their foe's power and orders her party to prepare for battle. Readying her sword with a confident smile, Seo-yeon asks her healer for buffs, and the mage in the blue hood agrees. Coke. God from afar writhes on the ground, slamming his own head and crying out in confusion about what's happening to his body. Damien looms over the fallen ranger, mockingly asking if he's curious about his pain while holding the voodoo doll. With a cruel smile, Damien explains that he used a voodoo doll with God from afar's hair to cast a spell, stating that the doll is now him. As God from afar dismisses his words as nonsense, Damien demonstrates his power by twisting the doll's arm. Kua. A screaming God from afar clutches his own twisted arm in agony as Damien taunts him, asking if he felt that. Damien menacingly suggests they try something else, holding the doll up to the terrified God from afar. With his face cloaked in shadow, Damien gives a sinister grin and asks what will happen if he hits the doll in a specific spot. Fuck! God from afar frantically claws at his own clothes, desperately begging Damien to stop. Crying and defeated, God from afar begs for mercy, promising to do anything for just one more chance. Unmoved by the pleas, Damien, shrouded in dark energy, coldly bids him farewell. Damien looks down at the unconscious ranger, annoyed that he passed out from fear and calling him lame. Checking on his foe, Damien notes that his HP isn't gone yet and tells the unconscious man he can't die yet. His thoughts are interrupted by a shout to "Stop!" and he looks up, surprised by the new arrivals. Seo-yeon and her party charge in, yelling for Damien to get away from God from afar. The party reaches God from afar's side, and Seo-yeon confirms he's still conscious, while Damien coolly assesses the newcomer's strength. With his arms crossed, Damien deduces that God from afar's confidence came from his party, and asks if they are his members. A system window appears before Seo-yeon, revealing Damien's unmeasurable propensity and causing her to gasp in shock. Seo-yeon raises a glowing object, and a notification appears, confirming she considers Damien an enemy and warning of death penalties. Damien questions her actions, realizing with alarm that they've discovered his propensity and he's now in a bad situation. Notifications announce that his stamina and mana recovery have been paused, and Damien realizes he needs to stall for time while his skills cool down. Damien's attempt to talk things out is cut short, as Seo-yeon furiously accuses him of being a murderer. Realizing they aren't willing to listen, Damien tells them that's enough. A shocked Seo-yeon demands to know what he means, and Damien explains that her party members started the fight by demanding his items. Damien claims his actions were justified and asks if they ordered the attack, a charge Seo Hee-yeon vehemently denies. Kaya. Suddenly, Seo Hee-yeon screams in terror as she and her mage companion look on in shock. Ugh, possessed. God from afar lurches to his feet with glowing eyes, causing Seo Hee-yeon to call his name in alarm. His hand now holds a glowing baby arrow, which he aims with deadly intent. Shit. The arrow flies directly at Damien, who realizes with a curse that he's been caught off guard. Unable to dodge, Damien grits his teeth, deciding he'll have to sacrifice his arm to survive the hit. KRRRH. A notification suddenly announces that God from Afar has logged out, leaving Seo Hee-yeon and her mage to stare in confused shock. Damien stares at the voodoo doll, surprised by notifications confirming he committed a PK and that his propensity can't decrease any further. Seo Hee-yeon furiously accuses Damien of forcing God from Afar to kill himself with spells, calling him a terrible, inhuman monster. Damien tries to protest that it wasn't intentional, but Seo Hee-yeon cuts him off with a furious, "Shut up." Declaring there's no more need to talk, she unleashes an attack that kicks up a cloud of dust and debris. Seo Hee-yeon lunges at Damien with her rapier, screaming that he can make his excuses in hell. Realizing he has no choice, Damien puts on a bone-like helmet, noting that his HP has recovered and his cooldowns are over. Damien activates 3 buffs at once, warning the party not to beg for mercy since they started the fight. Engulfed in a swirling red aura, Damien unleashes a powerful, fiery punch towards Seo Hee-yeon. The party's mage casts a powerful buff spell, shouting Excel Ethio to aid his leader. The two warriors clash as Seo Hee-yeon's magically enhanced blade meets Damien's flaming fist in a blinding explosion of power. Damien is shocked that she can block his attack with a thin blade, while she smirks, calling his killing skill garbage. Damien is violently thrown backward from the force of her counterattack. The party's healer unleashes a continuous stream of support spells, casting Divine Aura, Restore, and Lux Gloria on his comrades. Damien watches the endless buffs, realizing he has no chance of winning unless he takes out the healer first. Shouting a battle cry, Seo Hee-yeon unleashes another glowing, powerful attack with her rapier. Damien struggles to block Seo Hee-yeon's furious sword strikes, shocked by her advanced swordsmanship. He watches as the party's paladin receives a stack of defensive buffs, making the fight even more difficult. Realizing he has only one option, Damien steels himself for a new plan as Seo Hee-yeon taunts him for being distracted. Ha! Screaming with rage, Seo Hee-yeon lunges forward, her glowing rapier poised to strike. In a swift counter, Damien reveals a strange, skull-faced orb, channeling energy into the mysterious item. Seo Hee-yeon lands a powerful kick that sends Damien staggering backward. A thick fog suddenly blankets the battlefield, and as Seo Hee-yeon looks around in confusion, her party members cry out her name. "Hi," Damien says, appearing suddenly behind the disoriented Seo Hee with a menacingly large knife. With a sinister grin, Damien informs the stunned swordswoman that she's now trapped.